Are we ready? Good afternoon, good time zone, and warm greetings to wherever you are in the world. This is Amelia, aka Spaced Out Puffin, and I'm here to read Arc 2 of Heaven Official's Blessing, which, as a Donghua only fan, means that it is finally time to venture into the unknown.
Into the unknown!
Yeah, that's been the title stated for this video since I knew it was coming. Since I finished, volume 1 and realized that, yeah, I'm probably gonna be reading volume 2 as well. And here we are! The time has finally come. Surprisingly, I've survived these past, what is it now, 9 months? With minimal spoilers. I'm doing pretty well on that end. So really, every single thing that I'll be learning as I'm reading now, with the exception of whatever was in the first short film, will be completely new territory for me. And I am very, very excited. I've been talking about this for a long time. And at the same time, I'm a little nervous. Why? Why am I so nervous about this? See, maybe it's because I'm actually really invested now. I want this to be good. And I have so many indications that there are great things ahead, but I also feel a little overwhelmed. Like imagining that there are, 6 more volumes of story to go. And I have seen the glimpses of our happy ending. I mean, I've been pretty open about this, so I'll let you guys know that much. I have seen the cover for volume 8, and I have seen a screenshot from somewhere of Julian looking really happy with no bandages on his throat. So there is probably a happy ending. That's honestly, yeah. I mean, some people want to read stories if they don't know that there's gonna be a happy ending. I'm not like that. I wouldn't mind as long as the ending is a good one. Happy doesn't necessarily mean good. But there needs to be closure. And from what I've seen, from the glimpses I've caught, we're going to get that there's going to be a happy ending. But what lies beyond the next arc? I don't know. I don't know that. And well, I've been here before. Stories that start out good do not always end up being good all the way through. And they don't always have great endings that actually do bring that closure, even if they are happy. A child once burned, shy's fire, etc, etc. But there is really nothing for it. I'm just going to have to leave my fate in MXTX's clever little hands. And trust that I'll be able to come out on the other side and still say genuinely that I love this story. That is genuinely my biggest hope for this journey. There are already so many things I love that has so much potential, and I want to be able to say at the end of it that, yeah, this was worth it. Not that I doubt you guys, but I really want this story to be for me personally as well. Okay, nervous rant aside, I am so ready. Let's get to work. Because this here is our season 2 board, and we need to make a little bit of space. Because we don't know what's gonna happen. I know we're gonna go Chandler past, so I imagine that I'd like to maybe grab Bai Wuxiang, bring him down here somewhere, and put Long Chen Cho, who isn't even born yet, a little bit out of the way. So let me look at this for a second and see what I'll come up with. Okay guys, I think this is it. Now, to the untrained eye, it might look like I've just squeezed everything into the middle over here. And granted, I think that in the future I will be cutting these a little bit smaller just to make a little bit more space. But what I've actually done is that I've put the Gilded Banquet Massacre plot over here for now, aka in the future where we'll care about it later. And I've freed up a lot of space over here, which is where we will probably be working now that we're going into the past. As a bonus, the timeline is also down here, so we'll have something to refer to while we're doing our work over here. I put Bai Wuxiang a little further down for, you know, reasons. Some reason. Yeah. And furthermore, I moved function and mooching a little bit more over here because I think, or well, I know that we are going to be learning things about them as well. We'll be encountering them in the past and therefore they need to be closer to the action. I put a little bit more space around them as well so that we can add new things as we learn. But the very important notes are still up on the board, you know, so it's very important to remember that they have beef. We will be uncovering some of that beef going forward, I hope, I think. Come on, we're gonna know, we're gonna know. We're gonna know some more. And then there's Wuxiang over here, who, while not in his Ghost King form, will be a part of the plot as well. So with all this, I think we're ready to add some more notes to the board and to talk about some expectations for the arc that we're about to enter into. The first of these are Fengshen's spiritual weapon, Fengshen, the Wind God bow, which he got from Junwoo. And second up, we learned from our latest reading that Wuxiang and Fengshen actually have a couple of things in common that I think really encapsulates what kind of characters they are. Those two things are violence against Qi-Rong and their big dick energy, which I think is important enough to warrant a moment and a spot on the board. I think I asked vaguely what your guys' opinion on that was, like who has the biggest. And while no one's outright told me, it has been implied to me that Wuxiang kinda won that one. Good for you, Shillian. Good for you. So where do we go from here? Arc 2, the Shanla Past. That's not the name of the arc. The name of the arc is Crown Prince. The God-Pleasing Crown Prince. And what I think we will see, well, first of all, the short film, basically. I'm expecting to get to see the scene where Shillian saves Wuxiang. Basically, I'm expecting this whole thing to be the prologue, but from Shillian's perspective. All the events that happened there, the two big things that happened before his ascension, and some details in between. And honestly, only time will tell how far we're gonna go through our timeline. Are we going to go as far as the first banishment in this arc? Or are we even going to go further? Are we gonna go all the way to the second ascension and banishment? I do not know yet. But I theorized earlier in the study session video that yeah, I don't think it's going to be that big of an arc because volume 3 kind of looks like we're gonna go back to the present already. It does not have a cover that tells me that, oh, this is the Shanla Past. That's volume 2, right? But then again, that might just be design choices, we'll see. I'm expecting to be seeing a lot of characters already, like I mentioned. Fengshen will be there, Mooching will be there, Shillian's parents will be there, Qi-Rong is there. We saw him in the short film as well. Baby Wuxiang will be there. Just immediately putting him up on the board in case of plot elements. I chose the screenshot from the short film when he first sees Shillian because he looks so scared and afraid in a lot of these screenshots, but this one is just the beginning of all things. It feels like it fits. Oh, and this guy. This brown-haired suspicious man, aka Bai Wuxiang Suspect number 3. That's his name in my notes anyway. Yeah, we don't know who that guy is just yet. But he is in the short film, and he seems like very worried that Shillian hasn't shown up yet at the very beginning of the parade. And that's all. Like who is this? Is he Chandler royalty? Is he somehow related to Shirley-Ann? The hair color kind of, fits, I suppose. Is he a teacher? From the prologue, it seems to me that there are multiple state preceptors in Chandler, so it's not beyond me to guess that maybe he is one of them, and he seems to be the one kind of sort of in charge of Shirley-Ann if that is the case. So those are my two bets at the moment. He's either a family member who was, royal family members are usually put in charge of certain events. At least that happens a lot in the K-dramas I watched. Like in historical K-dramas, this or that prince will have like a responsibility to do this or that religious ceremony, and it's important that it's done well. So that's my first guess, like he is another cousin or something. The prettier Anla. Or he is indeed Shirley-Ann's teacher, who is put in charge of him at the moment. Or some other kind of servant, I suppose. We'll see. I'm looking forward to meeting this person in the book to see what kind of personality they actually have as well. Other predictions and expectations. Well, in my study session, I did make a list of all the moments that we know Wuxiang met Shirley-Ann while Wuxiang was still alive, which are surprisingly, it fills up a hand and then some. So I am expecting to meet Wuxiang at various points in the flashback story, this past part of the story. And I'm hoping that we will get to the point where we meet him as a soldier, as a boy who is slightly more grown than the child Shirley-Ann first met. I'm also expecting young Shirley-Ann to feel different from the Shirley-Ann that we are currently experiencing. But at the same time, I think that a lot of Shirley-Ann's current problems and issues that he is still not over originates in his experiences as a 17-year-old and then a 20-something-year-old god, So while I expect a slightly different character, I also expect his reactions and his difficulties to kind of be similar to what we've already explored. I feel like there should be a parallel there. So we'll see. I am hoping that we're gonna get all the way to the fall of Chandler, or to at least the beginning of this conflict between Yongen and Chandler. And I am hoping for a Bai Wuxiang introduction into the story. I am hoping to meet this character, this Ghost King, and discover more about them. And that's it. Those were my preparations before reading Arc 2 of Heaven Official's Blessing. But I still have something that I want to show you guys. I received another package, which traveled to me from across the world in the cutest fucking box ever. I want all my packages to come in animal printed packaging. So hold on a second while I get the correct corkboard up here. Okay, so this package got sent by Maria, who is a follower of the Temple of Corkboards and who is active in the Discord server as well. If I remember correctly, the username is Exuvia. And I have learned from my mistakes, so after wrestling with Ouija's package last time with the tape and everything, I cut this one open before I started filming so that I won't spend 15 minutes trying to figure out how to open the box. But yeah, this one is ready to open, so let's get at it. I know from our messages that Maria said there are spoilery items in this box. However, they are all marked, so I guess it's fitting that we're going into new territory as I am getting new things that I cannot look at yet. I still have things from Aria that I can't open before volume 6, and I do have my merchandise that I got from the special edition of volume 8, and I can't even remember when I'm supposed to be opening those. But I suppose it's like I have this advent calendar waiting for me. Every time I reach a certain milestone, I get to open new things. And I think that's kind of nice. So this box actually just has a latch. I just need to get the tape off and then I could just open it. So here we go, let's dive into it. So the first thing I'm seeing is a butterfly on a seal. Is that a letter? Look at that, that is so pretty. I don't know if this is a letter I'm supposed to be reading or if this is spoilery content. It's unmarked, so I'm thinking maybe this is the letter I'm supposed to read. Should I read this first or read it last? Well, there's always a chance that I'm going to tear up over it, so maybe I'll read this last. We have to find a nice place for it as well. And this is so neatly wrapped. There's a lot of bubble wrap, so some fragile things maybe. Let's be careful. Oh! Spoilers, do not open until after volume 8. Until after! This is 24th of December on my advent calendar. I can't open this until the day of. What? That's insane of you. I can't believe you've done this to me. That's fantastic. I am very excited to get to the end of volume 8, but I guess this will be collecting dust somewhere in my living room for the next 20 years. Oh my lord. Fantastic. Great work. Adding this to my list of things that I can open at the very fucking end of it. But thank you so much for taking the care to wrap it like this, in this black packaging and with a note like that. That's so clever and so exciting. There is more bubble wrap, and then there's but this kind of caught my eye. There are eye patches in here. Maria, why are you sending me eye patches? A lot of them too. Detoxing, brightening, firming. Are these good? Or are you trying to tell me something? Maybe the letter will explain, but thank you so much. I do like trying new beauty products sometimes. And if eye patches if these are good, I'll have to figure out where to get more. So thank you so much for these. I hope they'll be explained to me either by the letter or by you at a later point. And ooh, it's a little bag, it's super cute. It's sealed and it looks like there is some sort of charm inside. I can't tell who it is because of the little characters up front. Let's open it. Oh, there's a badge as well. I'm gonna take the charm out first. Let's have a look. Oh my gosh. It's a long chinchou. Guys, you have to see this. This is so cute. Oh my god. Okay, guys, you have to look at this. This is long chinchou hanging from the ceiling in the gambler's den. And this is long chinchou getting thrown stuff at. Oh my god. Is the animal up there? I don't know what kind of animal he has. It kind of looks like a red panda. I'm hoping it's a red panda. That's kind of cute. You'll have to let me know, but this is so cute. Oh my gosh. I love that he has a different expression on both sides. That's amazing. And the little heart tube here at the area where you're supposed to attach it. This one I can almost put on my backpack because no one will know what this is from. And it's our boy. It's our boy Sanlong, and he comes in a protective casing that you can take off or leave on. That's actually so clever. I also learned a trick about how to hang these on my corkboards, which I am going to do once I get a new corkboard. I want one where I can hang all these up as well to display them, but this makes me feel like I can actually wear it outside as well. This is so cute. Mario, thank you so much for the cute little charms, adding to my now rather extensive collection of TGCF merch. Thank you, they were so cute. The long chinchou one especially looks like it was made by an artist, like a fan artist. I would love to know their username if you have it. But there is more. Oh, that was the bottom of it. What is this? Is it a sort of bag? It is super cute. Like it has this flower sewn onto it. Oh my gosh. Oh, is it a lotus perchance? Like the little knob here kind of looks like it. I don't know though. It's super cute. It's super pretty. And there's something inside. Are these tissues? Oh my god. Maria, did you send me tissues? Is this a dig at my toilet roll? Oh my gosh, is this a tissue box though? That is amazing. Like it held this package perfectly. So I wonder if you're supposed to open it and then you can pull the tissues out from the top. Okay. my lord! How cute isn't that? Oh my gosh! This is fantastic! What the heck? I'm going to need, like, once I run out of tissues in this one, if I ever run out of tissues from this one, I'm gonna need to, like, get more of this specific, like, brand that is the size of these. What the heck? Maria, this is amazing. What even? This is the most beautiful tissue box I've ever seen. And seeing how that was the only marked thing, I'm guessing the letter is safe, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's in here. Let's give it a go. I don't want to ruin the seal. It's so pretty. It came out very easily, actually. Oh, okay. Can we appreciate this envelope? Look at that. It has like these flowers on the inside of it, in like a lining. And then the first thing I'm seeing is a little doodle of Shillian and a little doodle of Hua Chang over this little rabbit. This is so cute. Look, they're gorgeous. Did you draw these? These are amazing. There's a few items in here, actually. There's a letter and another. This is so cute. This is so cute, but oh my gosh, another warning, spoilers, do not open until after volume 7. Seriously, adding to this advent calendar, this is so fun. Okay, I won't, putting that aside. But this one is marked safe to open, and this is the letter. Should I read the letter first? I'll read the letter first this time around. Oh my gosh, your handwriting is gorgeous. It's so cute. Okay. Oh, on the top of the stationery, there is a line that says, "From majestic mountains and valleys of green to crystal clear waters so blue, this wish is coming to you." This is so cute. The stationery is amazing. You're gonna have to let me know where you get your stationery. Okay, here's the letter. Dear Puffin, thank you for gracing us with your reactions to this wonderful story and for creating a lovely community around it. It was always a joy to watch you react to each episode of the Donghua, craft your own theories, and note with so much care each and every detail that gets revealed as the story unfolds. Even more so, now that you've started reading the novel, I'm so excited for you. TGCF made me feel so many emotions, as I'm sure it will for you. So I've sent you a care package. That everything makes sense now. The eye patches suddenly make so much sense. Oh no. A care package for when you tackle certain parts of the story. There is a box of tissues to wipe tears with, and eye masks to make sure your eyes are soothed right after. The box is refillable, so when the tissues run out, you can just replace them. Yes, I will have to replace them, and I'll have to find tissues that are this size because, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I'm going to be using this for the rest of my life. This is absolutely adorable. I thought the lotus theme, it is a lotus. Yes, I feel very accomplished for guessing that. It's a beautifully crafted tissue box. This is so gorgeous. I thought the lotus theme would be perfect as it's a flower that Shillian is constantly compared to. Alright. Oh, and fun fact, the name for lotus flower in Mandarin is somewhat of a homophone to our beloved ship's name, because Lian Hua means lotus, and our ship name is Hua Lian. Written with a different character for Lian, but still, Lian Hua, that's amazing. I think it's been mentioned to me that lotus has that name and that it is similar, but oh my gosh, this is so fun. I also appreciate that you actually drew the characters for me, because that makes it so easy to see both the differences, and I like this sort of thing. I'm a little nerdy about these kinds of things. Anyway, I hope you like the stuff I sent. I've marked some of them for spoilers, and when it's safe to open them, I'm so excited for you to read some of the more memorable parts of the story, and I'm looking forward to hearing about what you think of them. From your temple devotee, Maria. Oh my gosh. So now I feel so positive. I feel like my negative little rant at the beginning of this video is so unwarranted. Like this makes me feel so safe in a sense. Like, we've created this wonderful, wonderful community of people, and the more I talk to you guys, the more I realize that you guys and I, like, we share a lot of common interests, and we have a lot of other medias in common. And it's just making me more sure that TGCF, it's not gonna disappoint. And I guess getting to read this letter from you right now felt so reassuring, actually. The timing was absolutely perfect, I think. Even though it's gonna be ages until I get to open the rest of this care package. Oh, except for this one. Okay, so now that we have this, gosh, your writing is so cute, I don't want to ruin it. And then this one, we have Walian. We have Walian. Oh my gosh. I just get so happy when I see them. We have these super cute cardboard cards with Donghua style art from Bilibili. Oh my goodness, they are so precious, they are so pretty. They're both good, but I think this one is my favorite. Where you can see them holding hands like that, it's so cute, it's... My heart is so warm. Mario, thank you so much for the care package. I think that it's going to see some use. Oh boy. I mean, I already have pretty strong feelings about a lot of these characters, especially our main characters. So when you send me tissues and say to get ready, I don't doubt that you are right about that. My God. Now, hold on a second while I get these up on the board. Gosh, the butterfly seal is so pretty. I wonder if I can somehow display it at the same time, but it's kind of hard, isn't it? I will think of something at a later date. Yeah, my mailbox board got really full all of a sudden. Which again makes me just reflect back on the fact that I've been so extremely lucky with this community that I've been able to build with you guys. Because what we've got is a really generous community. And I don't mean in the sense of monetary stuff, I mean in the sense of this is a community that will take the time to write a handwritten letter. This is a community that will take the time to show up in this server and talk to people every day, or take the time to write that comment, to write your thoughts down and share your excitement, and just the joy of having experienced a certain story that someone else has also experienced, and then finding communality in that. And I think that's wonderful. And thank you guys so much for brightening my days this way. This board is in my living room every single day, and I see it every single day. And every time I do, I can't help but, think about you guys and how lucky I am to have you guys along for the journey, watching me but also guiding me and helping me along the way, helping this go as smoothly as it's going, and just making someone happy, because you are bringing me a lot of joy, and I can only hope that I give you a fraction of that in return. So if you are a part of this community, if you partake by leaving a comment or talking to us on Discord, I just want to say thank you so much for making this part of your day. If you do want to see your postcard or your drawing up on my mailbox board, the instructions on how to send me things are down in the description below. And if you can't send me tissues, but you would like me to be able to refill my tissue box when the time comes, you can do that. Consider supporting me on Ko-fi. Ta-da! There we are! And I actually have like a dozen notes and shoutouts for the Ko-fi board today, so let's get to it. If you're new here and you don't know what the Ko-fi board is, this is where I give shoutouts to anyone who has donated to me on Ko-fi and therefore have the title of Corkboard Temple Devotees. My devotees do get preview videos of my reading videos and my reaction videos, as well as access to some extra channels in the server and our betting pool. And over the last couple of weeks, I've been so lucky that I get to introduce new followers to the Temple of Corkboards. A warm welcome to Mikael Christina. Thank you so much for your donation, it is so good to have you here. And also welcome to Double Black, DB, who's actually been in the server for months and who was one of the people who finished reading ORV with our server, which was so much fun. I'm so happy to have you here as a follower of the temple. And I do have a new name for the board, which is Miss Angel. However, my logs say that you did donate before, so I'm wondering if maybe you were one of the anonymous accounts that donated and now you've made an account with your actual name on it. Either way, I am counting it towards you, so here is your note. Welcome to the Temple of Corkboards. I also have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 hearts, so honestly, let's just get to it. Whew. The first heart goes out to D Misfortunes, who is back to Harvest Hearts. Thank you so much for donating to me this month as well, D. Someone else who's harvesting hearts again. This one goes out for Maru. Thank you so much for another donation as I now fill up your name tag with even more hearts. This pink heart is for Shady. Thank you so much for your donation. And this red one is for Dragon Love. Thank you so much for coming back. A heart and a shout out to Tiny Meeps. And another red heart here for Aquila. This pink heart is going up for Sea Banana, and another red heart for the wonderful Muley, and lastly a heart for Misty. Thank you so much for coming back this month as well. So those are the hearts, but I also have some more pins that need to go up. I have a flower for the wonderful DK Williams. Thank you so much for donating again to the Temple of Corkboards. I really hope you're still enjoying these videos. And this cat guardian is going up for someone who's been here for a long time. A shout out to the wonderful Emma Slavine. Thank you so much for coming back to donate this month as well. And lastly, but certainly not least, I have this little avian creature. A little corkboard, if you will. This adorable little owl pin is here for the wonderful Ouija. Ouija, who is so generous with me, who sent me that package last time and who just keeps being such a lovely person to me. You are officially one of my biggest supporters, which means I will be gifting you the white flower, which is something we do here because of the TGCF reference. It's getting very cramped around your name tag. I'm going to have to figure out something eventually. But until then, I'm just going to enjoy my board and how beautiful it's growing with all these new different pins on it. Thank you guys so much again for your donations. I hope that you've enjoyed these book videos so far, and I hope that now that we're going into the unknown, you'll enjoy them even more. So just big shout out to all my coffee supporters throughout these last months. Thank you for your patience. Let's do this. Yeah, I got some coffee brewed and I am so ready to start this reading session, but we have one last thing that we have to do. Him. See? Yeah, we needed Crown Prince Shillian on the board for this part since we're now in the Shandler Pass, right? I'm sure I can get pictures of like Young Mooching and Young Function as well, eventually, once the Dongwo team gets to it, or some other kind soul helps me out. There might be pictures of them in the book, but there might not be. We'll see, and then we'll adapt. But Young Shillian is on the board. I wonder what I'll do when I encounter like new characters that do not have Dongwo designs. Maybe I'll give them Puffin doodles or something. But alright, I've got my tallies ready and I am picking the Shillian Crown Prince pen for this one. He's ready for action. I should probably just put away the Guga tally, because the Guga tally is not going to be useful for the rest of this book, is it? This might really be the last Gugas of Volume 2. But the Laugh or Cry one is still relevant, as well as the Ellipse one. And there we are. Here we are, ready to start. Arc 2. My hands are kind of shaking, actually. This is, gotta do some breathing exercises and calm down, I suppose. Okay, I'm ready. I'm settled in, and I am reading Heaven Official's Blessing, Arc 2, The God-Pleasing Crown Prince. Chapter 25. Upon the grand avenue of divine might, a fleeting glimpse of beauty. The sword was thrust, penetrating the heart of the demon, and left it dead on the ground. By heaven's blessings, malevolence is slain and evil is subdued. On either side of the grand avenue of divine might, cheers erupted like an ocean current, coming in wave after wave, each one cresting higher than the last. In the courtyard that stretched before the scarlet-red gates of the palace, the two cultivators who played their roles of god and demon bowed to the surrounding crowds and stepped down, standing off to the side. The martial match that opened the show heightened the excitement in the city. Not only were the streets packed elbow to elbow, even the rooftops were full of brave climbers, clapping, hollering, flailing. The crowds went wild. A celebration of this magnitude was truly brimming and bustling with energy. In the history of the Kingdom of Shanle, if any festival of Shangyuan was to be described thus, it had to be the one happening today. Yeah, this is really good at painting this image that they also opened the short film with. I'm guessing we're going straight into that scene. To reiterate, there is a footnote here telling us how the Shangyuan festival is also known as the Lantern Festival, marking the 15th and last day of the Lunar New Year. It's a day for worshipping and celebrating the celestial heavens. Okay. So as someone who played Genshin Impact for the first few years after it was released, I am familiar with the idea of the Lantern Festival, and I am slightly familiar with the idea of Lunar New Year as well. And if these actors are the same ones as in the Donghua, which I'm expecting them to be, I'm guessing the two cultivators playing the role of demon and god are Sholian playing God, aka John Woo, and mooching, which is impressive mooching. Like, unless Sholian just gave him that role, that means that he has probably, worked hard to earn it, which is in line with what we know about mooching so far. Moving on. Up on the towering platform, row after row of finely dressed royals and nobles overlooked the crowd, all wearing courteous smiles on their faces. Within the palace, a line of hundreds waited silently. When the bell chimed, the state preceptor stroked his non-existent beard and began to call roll. Path-opening warriors, present. Jade maidens, present. Musicians, present. Cavalry, present. Demon, present. The God-pleasing martial warrior. No one answered. The state preceptor frowned as he noticed the complication and turned his head. The God-pleasing martial warrior? Where's the crown prince? Still, no one responded. The one who had answered to demon paused before he removed the monstrous mask, revealing a delicate fair face. Yeah, hitting me with that use mooching before we can even digest the fact that, Sholian just isn't there. And this is giving me kind of indications that, this guy is likely that guy, stroking his non-existent beard, right? This is likely supposed to be one of the state preceptors of Shanle, and definitely the one being described in the book right now. So, the youth appeared to be about 16 or 17. His skin and lips were both light in color, fresh and neat, and he bore a pair of bright, shimmering eyes as black as obsidian. His hair was soft and silky, and a few loose strands lightly littered his forehead and cheeks. He looked quiet and obedient, in contrast to the monstrous demon mask in his hand. Already giving us descriptions that are very unlike the mooching we know today. Yeah, mooching at 816 is very different from mooching at 16 or 17. He replied quietly, "His Highness the Crown Prince is left." The state preceptor almost fainted, but for the sake of this grand occasion he couldn't faint, so he held on and instead yelled with an angry exasperation, "What? He left? When did His Highness leave? The ceremonial parade is about to leave the palace gates. When the grand stage is revealed and there's only a demon but no god, my old bones won't be able to swim out of all the spit that'll come flying at me. Mooching, why didn't you stop him? Mooching hung his head. When His Highness left, he told me to pass on the message not to worry and that everything can proceed as planned. He will return promptly. The state preceptor was in hysterics from anxiety. How can I not worry? What do you mean promptly? When is promptly? What if he doesn't make it? So this guy in the book is way more hysterical than this guy is shown to be in the Donghua, but then again, he was only on screen for a little bit. So this might be another state preceptor. We'll have to wait and see. Outside the palace gates, the citizens who had been waiting since early morning were losing patience and were noisily demanding for the event to start. A cultivator came rushing forward. My lord state preceptor, the queen sent a message inquiring why the parade hasn't started. The fortuitous hour is fast approaching. If we don't leave now, we'll miss it. At those words, the state preceptor desperately prayed that a rebel army would suddenly invade and disrupt the Shengyuan parade completely. Oh no! He totally jinxed that, didn't he? I mean, not today, but yeah, rebel army coming your way, Mr. State Preceptor, sir. I wonder if he thought about this moment when that happened. And yeah, noticing that the story is starting not at all from Shulian's perspective, but from an omniscient perspective inside the gates before the parade is about to start. In other words, information that Shulian could not possibly know about. So now we're changing up stuff a little bit, it seems. So it seems that when we are in the past, we are more likely now to be jumping a little bit around. So it's really like we're joining the storyteller, except now we're seeing the story as it happened rather than as it's being told to an audience, if you know what I'm getting at. But anyway, so the state preceptor wished for a rebel army to disrupt this whole thing. Why did this headache have to happen right at the most crucial moment? If the troublemaker were anyone else, he would have flown into a rage already. No one would consider it a strange urge if he brandished a sword with intent to kill. But this troublemaker just happened to be his very, very favorite, most precious disciple, and the very, very distinguished, most precious son of another. He couldn't beat him, he couldn't yell at him, and he most definitely couldn't kill him. Rather than kill him, he'd more likely kill himself. Oh my gosh. Okay, yeah. Another person who, for whom Shulian is just the favorite. I mean, Shulian is favorite material. He is my favorite, he's Junwoo's favorite, and he is the state preceptor's favorite. Makes sense. Just then, someone ran across the palace's black path and rushed inside, shouting, Lord State Preceptor, why hasn't the parade started? The hour is about to pass, everyone outside is on edge. The one who'd arrived was also a young man of 16 or 17. Oh, is this Function? It's gotta be Function. It's gotta be Function. His build was upright and tall, and his skin the color of wheat, and on his back he carried a long black bow and snow-white quiver. It's Function. His lips were pressed tight, his brows knit. Even at such a young age, his eyes were determined. The moment the state preceptor saw him, he grabbed him. Function, where's that highness of yours? That highness of yours, that's so cute. I love this so much. Function was taken aback, but understanding instantly dawned, and anger filled his eyes as he turned his gaze to Mooching. As for Mooching, he had already put his demon mask back on without a word, his expression now unseen. Function said gravely, There's no time to explain. Please start the parade immediately. His Highness the Crown Prince will not disappoint you, sir. There was no other way. Bringing out a grand stage without the God-Pleasing martial warrior was death. Delaying the procession and missing the fortuitous hour was also death. Despairingly, the state preceptor waved his hand. "Start the music! Depart!" Upon receiving the command, the flutes and strings started to play, and the hundreds of royal warriors at the front of the procession roared in chorus to begin their march and lead the massive, impressive parade. They had departed. Okay, so Shirley is gonna show up. It seems like he has a plan of some sort. I don't know why he's left. Maybe he had something to do. But he's not where he is supposed to be at the start of this parade. And Mooching knows. Shirley has told Mooching what's up, basically. And Function seems to know as well, but like immediately, the first interaction we're seeing between Function and Mooching is Function's eyes filling with anger as he turns his gaze to Mooching. So the beef between the two is there now, without the fall of Chandler and all that. So yeah, I've kind of like been suspicious of it, of course, but it seems like there was already some sort of animosity between the two while they were still children. And we're kind of poking at that right now, aren't we? Okay, let's keep going. They have departed. The warriors at the front symbolize the thorny paths of the mortal world, immediately following were the virgin girls meticulously selected from thousands of applicants, demure and beautiful. With baskets in their hands, they scattered flowers in the air, like the celestial maidens they played, paving the path with blossoms and filling it with fragrance to signify enduring and unsullied virtue. It has a footnote here, which says, a reference to a verse from Lu Yol's Ode to the Plum Blossom. Her petals may be ground in the mud, but her fragrance will endure. Okay. The musicians rode in carriages of gold. The moment the procession left the palace gates, the crowds were amazed and astonished, fighting to catch the flowers. However, no matter how magnificent, how extravagant, how grand, this was only the warm-up act. The grand float, a glorious stage, was about to emerge. 16 white stallions adorned with gold pulled the grand stage from behind the palace gates, slowly bringing it before the eyes of millions. On the stage was a black-clad demon with a monstrous mask on his face and a 9-foot-long saber in his hand. Gravely, he shifted to a fighting stance. The state preceptor was tense like a taut string, hoping for a miracle, yet no miracles occurred. The crowd broke into chatter. Above, on the high platform, the royals and nobles frowned, exchanging wondering looks with each other. What's going on? Why is the God-Pleasing martial warrior not on stage? Has His Highness the Crown Prince not arrived yet? Where is Liang Gaga? Is that Qi-Rong? I'm imagining it must be Qi-Rong, unless it is another cousin or even sibling. Because again, we haven't cleared that fact, have we? Someone is calling Shirley and Gaga though, so a younger family member. At the center of a tall platform sat a dignified, handsome man and a fair-skinned, amiable, gracious noblewoman. They were the king and queen of the kingdom of Chandler. Not seeing the one who should be there, the queen gave the king a worried look. The king took hold of her hand and used his gaze to comfort, telling her not to worry and to watch and see what would happen. The crowds below, however, had no one to comfort them, and their cries grew louder, so much so that the noise could almost raise the rooftops. The state preceptor could only blame himself for not having the courage to kill himself right then and there. Yet on stage, Mooching was quite calm. Even without his opponent, he remained meticulous, taking care of his own stage directions. Clang! He hurled his heavy saber down into the stage, standing it upright before him. Pantomiming an act of chilling slaughter, the black-clad youth impressively ended the opening act as the demon. By face and by form, Mooching was delicate and elegant like a gentle scholar, and yet he swung an impressively heavy 3-meter saber as if it were feather light in his hands. as if it were weightless. Another group of cultivators, playing the roles of demon vanquishers, leapt onto the stage one by one they were instantly defeated and chased off the stage. That saber danced skillfully and made the performance quite exciting to watch, so some in the crowds cheered for him. So, we're getting this little bit of, yeah, Sholian was supposed to be here, but it seems like his parents are pretty calm about this, meaning, has he done shit like this before? Is this like, does he like making a spectacle out of things? And yeah, we're getting some more details on mooching as well. And this saber, I'm wondering if, like, we don't know what mooching's like weapon of choice is yet. We know functions is a bow, and therefore it's very fitting that he's running around with a bow now as a child as well. But mooching, saber, maybe? I don't know if that's spoilery. Is mooching's weapon of choice a saber, or is it solely for this role? Either way, he's described as being very impressive. Except the people didn't come to watch Demon causing havoc, so after that act, there were more complaints. Where's the God-Pleasing martial warrior? Where's His Highness the Crown Prince? We want to see His Highness playing the Heavenly Emperor, defeat the evil. Upon the towering platform, a furious voice shouted, "Where's my cousin?" Yeah, that was totally Chi-Rong earlier, wasn't it? Where's my cousin? What the hell? Who wants to watch this crap? Where the fuck is my cousin, the Crown Prince? No need to confirm who that was. Oh my god. MXTX knows. MXTX knows. They've already introduced Chi-Rong so successfully in the previous arc that, yeah, everyone knows. Everyone reading this arc knows what's up. Obviously, that loud voice belonged to none other than Prince... I was about to say, did I just mess up? Because it says Prince Xiaojing Chi-Rong. So is that his name? Is it Xiaojing or is it Chi-Rong? Or is Xiaojing like a title, Prince Xiaojing? Sure enough, Manny looked up and saw a young man finely dressed in light turquoise brocade and a necklace rush to the edge of that platform, shaking his fists angrily. This youth was no older than 15 or 16, his face fair and his brows black, rather attractive, but his face was twisted murderously as if he was going to jump off the tower at any moment and to beat someone. However, the tower was too tall. If he jumped, he'd break his legs if not die. So instead, he grabbed a white jade teapot and hurled it down. Oh my god, Chi-Rong. Not the teapot! That hurled teapot flew quickly right at the back of the demon's head, looking like it might knock him out on the spot and spill his blood. Unexpectedly, however, the demon shifted his stance. Good on you, mooching. Slanted his saber flat and caught the teapot on the tip of the blade. I thought he was just gonna smash it or something, but he actually caught it. The tottering teapot came to a stop, prompting another wave of cheers. Mooching then flicked a long saber and the teapot was hurled into the air to be caught by someone below. Fucking hell, Mooching. that was good, actually. That was so extra, but it was so good. He continued to play the role of the demon languidly, swinging the long saber, slaughtering humans. Chi-Rong was outraged and was about to throw something else, but the queen had ordered someone to pull him away. So he was reluctantly dragged off. Yet the faces of the nobles were looking more and more grim, and some were growing restless. Yeah, that was enough Chi-Rong for me for one day, but yeah. So we're creating a little bit of tension here, like everyone is waiting for Sholian to arrive, and he's not where he was supposed to be. So we're getting like this heavy layer of tension already. That the God-Pleasing martial warrior would disappear right before the heavenly procession of the Shangyuan festival was no laughing matter, but just then, a roaring cheer like a storm exploded from amongst the people, louder than the cheers from before. A snow-white silhouette had descended from the sky and landed right before the black-clad demon. Upon his landing, his heavy white robes fluttered and covered the grand stage in the shape of a giant flower, and a golden mask hid his face. He held a sword in one hand, and the other gently flicked that foreboding blade, the resounding ringing pleasing to the ear. This gesture was serene and confident, as if the demon meant nothing to him. The demon slowly raised his long saber and pointed it at him, and the white-clad martial warrior unhurriedly rose to his feet. There is some art coming up on the next page, and it is... I forgot to breathe. Oh my goodness, the artist has just outdone themselves. Like it's Chilean. It's him. Oh my gosh, this is so beautiful. Oh my gosh, this is slightly different, but the mask, I think, like, if I remember correctly, yeah, it's right there. It seems to me that Zelda CW is taking inspiration from the designs of the cover art. Well, the Dongwa design is slightly different, but this is so beautiful. I really love these robes. And oh my gosh, Sholian with his little ponytail. This is amazing. This is everything to me. I'm happy now. I can stop reading now. This was great, guys. This was amazing. What a great rendition of the short film in literary form. But we haven't saved Huachang yet, we better get back to it. Qirong's eyes were shining bright, his face red. He jumped up and down shouting, Cousin Crown Prince has come! Above and below, all were agape. This entrance was like the descent of a real heavenly being, exceedingly audacious. Okay, so he decided to do this in order to be like a god descending from the heavens. To make the entrance of the God-pleasing warrior, like he's supposed to be playing John Woo, right? More impressive is what I'm getting. The city's walls tower was at least 30 meters tall, and the eminent crown prince, whose person was worth 1,000 gold, had still leapt down from it. In that moment, thousands had thought a god had truly descended. When they recovered from their shock, fervor filled their veins. The crowd went hysterical, applauding with wild intensity. Qirong too was shouting, leading the crowd in wild applause, yelling until his voice was hoarse, clapping until both his hands were red. I keep getting Qirong mentions. I was so done with him already, but this is really showing, you know, how he was about to make a scene because things weren't as they were supposed to be. But the moment Sholian is there, he's like a bit of a hero complex. His cousin can do no wrong. I just realized that I do have a note like that on the board. Oh gosh, maybe I too am not safe from the Sholian perfection complex, I suppose. The king and the queen shared the look, smiling and applauded too. The rest of the nobles eased their furrowed brows and sighed a breath of relief before joining in the cheer. On either side of the grand avenue of divine might, the crowds went wild, like crashing waves, hundreds and thousands of men so excited that they pushed against the royal guards, wanting to approach closer to holler. Upon the grand stage, two figures, one black, one white, faced each other. Each with their own weapon in hand, god and demon would finally face off. Seeing that everything had worked out, the state preceptor finally relaxed his shoulders and mounted the towering platform. After nodding to his fellows in greeting, he found a seat for himself and sat down. The king chuckled. Oh, is this going to be a bit of a state preceptor? You have outdone yourself with this little idea. And the state preceptor is just going to have to be like, yeah, this was completely according to plan, although he was contemplating suicide mere minutes earlier. The king chuckled. State Preceptor, how did you come up with such an exhilarating entrance? How splendid. Exactly. Oh my god. The State Preceptor wiped sweat from his face and smiled. Splendid indeed, but unfortunately this lowly subject didn't come up with it. I'm afraid it's His Highness the Crown Prince's own idea. Well, at least he's honest about it. The Queen patted her heart. That mischievous child. To jump from such a height without a word of warning, I almost stood up in fright. Mischievous child. Ah. So, I kind of like that. I kind of like that Julian has that side to him as this young, almost adult boy. And that kind of tracks with, like, him being very okay with Hua-Chang's little mischievous streaks sometimes, and being a little bit mischievous himself sometimes as well. I like this. I like this a lot. The State Preceptor couldn't help but lace his words with pride. My Lady Queen can be at ease. The martial might of His Highness the Crown Prince is extraordinary. Dozens of meters is nothing to him. Even with towers that are many times higher, he can easily mount and easily jump off with his eyes closed. The Queen appeared pleased and said gently, Thanks to the teachings of the State Preceptor. The State Preceptor laughed. It's nothing, it's nothing. His Highness the Crown Prince, darling of the heavens, is divinely gifted, marvelously talented, and graciously brilliant. It is the fortune accumulated from 3 lifetimes that gave this lowly subject a chance to become his teacher. I have a feeling that with His Highness the Crown Prince's presence, today will go down in history as the most impressive of the God-Displeasing ceremonies martial matches, oh my lord. Yeah, he totally jinxed that as well. This guy is jinxing every single thing. What an unlucky bastard. If he says anything, it's gonna be like, yeah. He has already summoned the rebel army that is about to happen. Not today, but like near in the future. And now he's jinxing this thing by saying that, yeah, it's gonna be the best shit ever. And then you know, it goes to... You know, honestly, it makes sense now. This guy's totally Bai Wuxiang. He's gonna end up killing himself because of the I don't know, like the failure he feels like he is after, you know, allowing this wonderful, divinely talented and blessed prince of Shanda, you know, mess up. As he does according to the prologue. He's gonna be so down about it that he's gonna die and he's gonna come back as the most resentful ghost ever. Yeah, like no joke, this could actually be kind of the plot that we're going into. We'll see. His words of praise were exceedingly smooth, alluding to the heavens. The king smiled and turned back to watch the performance. I hope that's the case. In the heavenly procession of the Shangyuan festival, the God-pleasing martial warrior and the demon were the 2 most important roles. Both must be played by young men exceptionally skilled in martial arts. The God-pleasing martial warrior especially. The presentation and make of his costume were strict, transcendently magnificent, and after dressing, the weight of everything worn came to 25 or 30 kilos. Holy shit! 17-year-old Shirley-Ann, tougher than the Marines. The martial warrior must, under this heavy burden before the eyes of millions, march around the capital a number of times and perform in the martial match for at least 4 hours. A number of times, it was 10, right? The prologue said 10, I'm quite sure. There must also be no mishaps throughout, and so the performer must be extraordinarily skilled. Fortunately, both of these young men were outstanding. It was a fierce match. The saber parried the sword. The combat was a thrilling sight to behold. The moves were also calculated to the minutest detail, obviously having been practiced and rehearsed many times. Who's the one playing the demon and sparring with the Crown Prince? The king asked. The State Preceptor cleared his throat. Your Majesty, he's a young trainee from the Royal Holy Temple. His name is Mu Qing. The queen said sweetly. I see that child is also rather skilled in fighting, just a bit weaker than my son, maybe about the same level as Fang Xin. Okay, I see. The state preceptor didn't appear to agree with her sentiment. Qirong had been lying on the queen's lap, eating grapes, and he spat out the skins in a rush. No way, not just a bit weaker, he is far weaker. Not just anyone can compare to cousin Crown Prince. Hearing this, the queen patted his head, smiling, and the rest of the nobles all laughed, their bodies swaying back and forth in mirth. They teased. Wrong, I think that's how you say that syllable. Wrong certainly clings to his cousin. If a day passes when he doesn't praise him, he's miserable. Down below, in the sea of people, the cheers and hollers were shooting through the heavens. Fight! Fight! Kill him! Slay the demon! The roars of excitement were growing stronger. Qirong was also adding to the noise, circling both his hands around his mouth like a trumpet, shouting and laughing. Gosh, Qirong is getting so much spotlight. I am so tired of him already. And here he comes with a whole caps locks on sentence. Cousin Crown Prince, go! You can easily knock him down with one hand. Show him how it's done. Suddenly, the demon on stage slashed forward. The martial warrior repelled the attack with his sword, but made a noise of curiosity. It seems like that was not planned. Mooching getting a bit riled up. Yeah, that indication is more like the mooching I know. During the heavenly parade, the martial match was a performance for pleasing the gods, and at most, one should just use a seventh of their power, pulling their swords at contact. However, with that strike he received just now, the sword in his hand had almost flown from his grip. Obviously, his opponent had used all of his might in that blow. Shulian raised his head slightly and called out, Wuqing? The young man playing the demon didn't say a word, just slashed at him again. Shulian had no time to think, as he received one attack after the other, their weapons clanging. Well, this is more exciting than fake sparring, Shulian thought, and his spirit heightened, immersing himself more into the fight. Thus, under the crashing roars of cheers, the weapons clashed and sparks flew. The more invigorating the fight was on stage, the louder the cheers below. Okay, this is a detail that they did not take time to show in the short film, which is that their fighting actually got more serious. Because of Qirong riling them up, I guess. It seems that Wuqing feels like he has something to prove. Like, he obviously didn't hear that conversation up there, but it's giving inferiority complex already. And it makes sense. He's a very young boy right now. And it makes sense for young boys to be very competitive. And, well, Shulian enjoys it. He wants to let loose as well. So he really does not mind. Suddenly, there was a deafening clang. White lights flashed, and the crowd gasped. Their breaths hitched. That 3-meter saber was flicked out of the demon's hand by the long, slender sword of the God-Pleasing martial warrior, and was nailed directly into a stone pillar of the towering platform. A few bystanders tried to pull it out, but even when they pulled with all their strength, the long saber didn't move an inch. They were greatly astonished. What kind of saber is this? What strength do you need to wield it? Upon the grand stage, the God-Pleasing martial warrior shook his sword and he flicked his finger on the blade again. Yeah, okay, so that little bystander, comment there is a compliment. That's a compliment to Wuqing. Like, this is a thing that's very hard to wield. Another resonant ring, and from behind a golden mask there came soft chuckling. You fought well, but you still lost, Shulian said, cheerfully and leisurely. With his weapon lost, the demon bent one knee to the ground. He was still silent, but his fists clenched harder. Shulian skillfully twirled his sword and, surrounded by the cheers from all around, prepared to make his final strike and slay the demon. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So they went a little bit harder is what this is saying. But yeah, even though mooching has a role to play here, it seems that while he is described as in the past he was more calm or whatever, I don't think that was the case. I just think that he was masking it a lot better. Or at least he was, at least that whatever he was doing, it gave him that image to Shirley-Ann, even though it's quite obvious to me as a reader that he is in there, he's under there. Like, we're seeing the beginnings of the mooching that we know. But we also know his circumstances. So, yeah. Fucking hell. Every mention of mooching has me, like, laser focused. Because, yeah. If you watched my tier list video, and if you watched any of my other videos where there's a mooching rant, there's been a lot of mooching rants, okay? He's like that. I am looking to dig into him. So these things are actually, I'm sucking them up like a sponge so that we can dissect him and figure him out. So anyway, he's preparing to slay the demon, but just then there was screaming from above. Shocked, Shirley-Ann lowered his sword and looked up, but he was only able to see a blurry shadow plunging rapidly from the city wall. In that split second, he didn't have time to think. He pointed his toes and pushed off the ground in a flash to leap into the air, darting upward weightlessly. He surged and flew, his sleeves fluttering open like the wings of a butterfly, then landed gracefully, light as a feather. Firmly in his hold was a person, and only when he touched solid ground did Shirley-Ann sigh a breath of relief and look down. In his arms there was a child, his head wrapped in bandages, dirty and unkempt. He was curled up in his hold and watching him dazedly. This child was no older than 7 or 8 and quite the small, gaunt creature. After falling from such a height, his little body was shaking uncontrollably in his arms like a newborn animal. However, from that mess of bandages wrapped around his head there peeked a large black eye that reflected the silhouette of a snow-white figure. He was watching him unblinkingly, as if he could no longer see anything else. Loud gasps were heard from all around, and when Shirley-Ann raised his head, his heart sank. In his peripheral vision, he saw, lying on the ground not far away, a golden object. The golden mask that hid his face had fallen. Shirley-Ann had landed in the middle of the Grand Avenue of Divine Might, and the ceremonial parade was dozens of meters behind him, the procession not having made it this far yet. The sudden commotion broke the steady march of the warriors, and the flower-tossing celestial maidens looked panicked. The golden carriages stopped, a number of white stallions stumped their hooves and neighed in alarm, and the strings missed notes with their rhythm disrupted. Some kept going, and some stopped. Without being able to coordinate their march again, the entire situation was spiraling out of control. The crowd on both sides of the street still hadn't had the chance to react, but the King of Shanle, up on the towering platform, stood up immediately, looking worried and grave as he watched his son. The moment he stood, how could the rest of the nobles remain seated? Thus they all rose to their feet in a frenzy. The state preceptor's bottom had only just warmed his seat, but now it was cold again. He was frantically deciding whether he needed to prostrate on all fours immediately to beg for forgiveness when Chirong leapt onto the railing, his sleeves rolled up, shouting in rage. "What is going on? What's happening? Why did the procession fall into chaos? What the hell are you useless trash doing? Did you all eat nothing but plain rice? Can't even hold your horses?" I don't know what that insult is. Did you all eat nothing but plain rice? Can't even hold your horses? Is it like, are you just weak? You didn't get your protein, bro? Oh, okay. Well, this is apparently bad. The queen's face was pale, her brows lightly knitted, and she hurriedly sent for another person to drag him back. The crowds were growing agitated, and a riot was about to erupt when just then Shirley-Ann rose to his feet once more, about to save the situation. Usually, the Honorable Crown Prince was hidden deep within the palace or training at the Royal Holy Temple, so he rarely had the chance to show his face to the people. This was such a rare occasion that many couldn't help but be intrigued, their gazes all falling on him. Yet when they gazed upon his face, their breathing hitched. That young man had long brows and charming eyes, exceptionally handsome, radiating nobility so dazzling it forced down the eyes of those looking. With the child in one arm, he slowly raised the other with sword in hand and pointed to the grand stage. The demon had been observing the situation from above the stage, and seeing that gesture, he paused for a moment before leaping off the parade float. The crowd wowed in amazement as the demon, his form like a streak of black cloud, stole through the air to the stone pillar where the saber was deeply embedded. He gripped the hilt and yanked the saber out of the crack, then flipped again to land in the middle of the street before the martial warrior. Seeing that he instantaneously understood his intentions and came forward to cooperate, Shirley-Ann lauded him under his breath. "Good, Mooching." Yeah, he understood what he wanted to do immediately, is what he's saying. Now both the God-Pleasing martial warrior and the demon had descended from the stage. One black, one white, one saber, and one sword clashed once again, heightening the excitement, electrifying the crowd. Upon the towering platform, the faces of nobles finally relaxed, looking appeased. The demon feigned aiming for the child in the warrior's arms. With both his hands gripping the saber, he flashed a blade, then lunged at Shirley-Ann. The two faked parrying, move after move, strike after strike, before they leapt back onto the stage anew. While the crowd was distracted, Mooching used the opportunity to do a somersault onto the street and grab that golden mask. Then dashed through the procession, urging in a low voice, "Stay in formation, compose yourselves, pretend nothing's happened, and continue to march. Finish marching this round and return to the palace." Oh my god. I love that he made sure to get that mask back. Can't lose any parts of the expensive getup that the Crown Prince is wearing for this. They said it was heavy stuff and very, very expensive, right? Everyone in the procession immediately steadied and returned to their posts, their spirits renewed. The moment Mooching returned to the stage, his attacks became even more vigorous, clinking and clanking, as Shirley-Ann received more slashes. Just then, the child in his arms cried out, probably terrified from being stuck between the clashing weapons. Shirley-Ann's left hand held him tighter, and he whispered, "Don't be scared." Hearing his words, the small child clutched the folds of Shirley-Ann's robes at his chest. Even with the child in one arm and the other hand handling a sword, Shirley-Ann was still fighting with ease. After parrying for a while, he felt the child in his hold raise his trembling arms and grab his shoulders in a desperate grip, as if he were hanging on for dear life. Shirley-Ann soothed again. "Don't worry, nothing will hurt you." Then Shirley-Ann ordered in a hushed voice, "Mooching!" The demon facing him imperceptibly nodded, and Shirley-Ann struck. Thus, before the eyes of millions, the God-Pleasing martial warrior pierced the heart of the demon, slaying it on the spot. Mooching, with his demon mask on, clutched his wounds, stumbled back a few steps, and struggled for a moment before finally, thud, he fell to the ground and stopped moving. Above on the platform, fucking Cheerong again, laughed out loud, applauding. "Dead! He is dead! Cousin Crown Prince has slain the demon dead!" While all this was happening, the magnificent heavenly procession had continued to march and soon moved onto the path back to the palace. Because of how well the act was saved and how the
unexpected improvised act was so exhilarating to watch. Not only did the people not complain, but their excitement grew even stronger. Countless within the crowd were shouting, "Your Highness," or hollering, "God!" And following behind the grand stage, thousands upon millions rushing to the palace. A few generals had to send out more troops of warriors and soldiers to block the overly excited people. In the end, they still couldn't hold them back, and the crowd broke through, pushing themselves towards the palace gates. The king of Shanle ordered from the top of his towering platform, "Guards, warriors!" Meanwhile, the hundreds within the procession had re-entered the palace, and the giant scarlet gates closed soundly shut. After the grand stage, the colorful banners of the performance now out of sight. The people rushed the gates, knocking and slapping upon them, their cheers shooting to the heavens. Oh my gosh, the crowd frenzy is so real. Inside those firmly shut palace gates, upon the grand stage... Wait, did Wuxiang come with them? Is Wuxiang still there? Upon the grand stage, the white-clad, God-pleasing martial warrior and the black-clad demon both tossed their weapons aside with clanking sounds before they collapsed heavily on the ground. Shulian was covered in sweat and ripped open layer after layer of his elegant costume before he heaved a long breath. That was close. Too close. I'm exhausted. Wuxiang also removed his heavy demon mask and let out a silent sigh, but he didn't complain about being tired. Right? Because, does that make you feel better, Wuxiang? Oh my god. Though I guess not showing any weakness is kind of like in his DNA at this point. He is from the slums, after all, as we remember. Probably did not have a great uprising, bit of a harsh life there. When he looked over, he saw that Shulian was still holding on to that young child and frowned wordlessly. Fengxin, on the other hand, called out as he followed after the grand stage in the jog. "Your Highness, what are you doing bringing that child in too?" The young child was lying on Shulian's chest, his small body frozen and unmoving, afraid to even breathe loudly. Shulian sat up. "What was I to do? Throw him back out on the streets? It's a mess out there, and he's such a tiny creature. He'd get trampled to death." He held up the small child and stroked his head, asking casually, "How old are you, little one?" Oh my god, he's talking to it. The child didn't blink, and his lips uttered no sounds. Shulian continued his query, coaxing. "How did you come to fall earlier?" "Your Highness, the child probably doesn't dare speak. He's obviously scared witless," Wuxiang said. Shulian stroked the head of the child again, but his unresponsiveness was making him lose interest, so he eventually stopped. "What a silly child," Shulian commented. "Fengxin, go find someone to take him out through the side doors when you get a chance, and check if he's injured. His head is wrapped in bandages." "All right," Fengxin extended his hand. "Give him here." Shulian held the young child up to pass him over. It's not gonna work. But when he tried, Fengxin said, "Your Highness, why haven't you let go?" "I did let go." Shulian was puzzled. But when he looked down, he laughed in exasperation. It turned out it was the child. He was still clutching tightly onto his clothes, refusing to let go. A few were taken aback and started laughing out loud. While training at the Royal Holy Temple, so many devotees, men and women alike, tried their hardest to get a glimpse of Shulian, whether out of curiosity or devotion. But as soon as they'd seen him once, they would want to see him again. If they could train next to him, even better. They couldn't believe that a child of such a young age would be the same. Oh my gosh. Couldn't you? I mean, look at him. Look at him. No one's immune. No one is immune to that face. Guarding the grand stage were many young trainees from the Royal Holy Temple, and they all laughed. "Your Highness, the child doesn't want to leave." Shulian also laughed. "Is that right? That one too? I've got my own things to take care of. Go home, little guy. At his words, the child finally, slowly, loosened his grip, letting go of his clothes, and Function picked him up. Even when Function was the one holding him, the child still stared fixedly at Sholian with his big, bright black eye, almost as if he had been possessed. At this sight, many started grumbling under their breaths. Sholian himself, however, wasn't even looking at the child anymore and only spoke to Function directly. Don't tangle him like you're picking up trash, you're scaring him. Function put the child back down on the ground. Enough joking around. The state preceptor is freaking out. Your Highness better think about how you're going to face him later. Hearing this, everyone stopped laughing. Oh my god! Okay, a lot of things are happening, and we are at a little interlude right here. But to summarize, that guy's gotta be the state preceptor. That is the only reason I see him being animated in the short film. He is the state preceptor, unnamed as of this moment, but important enough in the sense of, he's Sholian's teacher, and he is, like me, Sholian is his favorite and is giving him heartburn, headaches, the whole package. I don't know, I'm kind of relating. But at the same time, I just love seeing young Sholian mess around. And, Wuxiang is here. Wuxiang is here. Clutching onto Sholian for dear life. And finally, Function got to carry him. Function, meet Crimson Rain Sword Flower. Oh my god. Could you imagine telling Function that now that once upon a time you carried Crimson Rain Sword Flower in your arms? Oh lord. But yeah, so to Sholian, this is a child he's saved. And that's it. Like, everything about the text and Sholian's reaction to this is, well, that happened. I'm gonna move on because my preceptor is really fucking mad at me, I think. And I've got to prepare to meet him. Like, to him, the saving of Wuxiang is just a comma in his long day of things that are happening, But he's literally just changed this kid's life. And now Function is gonna put him back on the street, I guess, get someone to take care of him for a little bit. We don't know what's gonna happen after that. But I'm guessing that we're gonna meet the state preceptor now if this is gonna keep going in this. I don't know if we're gonna an hour later at the Royal Holy Temple. Yeah, okay, so we are going, like, we're continuing this day. We're continuing to see what happened after the parade. We're already getting so much new stuff. This is so exciting to me. An hour later, at the Royal Holy Temple, on the Divine Might Summit, inside the Palace of Divine Might, which is, like, the temple for Junwu, right? Clouds of incense wafted in the air, and the sound of chanting came in waves. The chief state preceptor and 3 other deputy state preceptors sat in a line by the side wall within the Great Hall. Okay, so we have 1 main state preceptor and 3 deputies. Is this guy the main state preceptor? We're about to find out. Mu Qing was kneeling before them. Sholian was also kneeling, but before him was no one but the golden statue of the Heavenly Emperor. Okay, yes, because Sholian is the crown prince, so he is not kneeling to his teachers like that. But he can kneel before God, because God is above him. Okay. Function followed his master and knelt behind him. The state preceptor picked up that exquisitely crafted golden mask, and after a moment he heaved a heavy sigh. Your Highness, Your Highness. Even when kneeling, Sholian's back was straight, his posture perfect, and his head held high. Present. The state preceptor looked pained. Do you know that in the history of Shanle and the countless Shangyuan heavenly ceremonial processions we have held, never once has the grand stage only circled the capital thrice? Thrice! In the Shengyuan heavenly ceremonial procession, every ritual, every decoration, every place had a meaning behind it. To have the grand stage circle the capital once symbolized the kingdom's prayer for the peace and prosperity of the people for 1 year. Thus, however many rounds the grand stage made meant that many years before another such grand ceremony would need to take place. Not only did this signify good fortune, it also saved money. Having only made 3 rounds, didn't that mean the kingdom would only be protected for 3 years? The worst thing on top of that was that the golden mask on the face of the God-Pleasing martial warrior had fallen mid-ritual. Since ancient times, the people of Shanle had believed that the spiritual chi of a person gathered upon the 5 facial features. Okay. The spirit of a person was on their face, and the best must be offered to the heavens. Thus, while performing the ceremony, the martial warrior must wear a golden mask to hide his face because his face could only be appreciated by the gods. The mortals had no right to see it. Oh, okay. Okay. So the reason why this is bad is because everyone saw Sholian's face. Okay. But with a face like that, it's a waste to hide it, guys. It's such a waste. It really is. I think we did the objectively right thing by removing the mask. The state preceptor was both furious and disappointed. The God-pleasing martial warriors of the past circled the capital at least 5 times, at most 15 or 16 times. You could do 50 with your eyes closed, 100 even. But you killed yourself dead at 3. Why didn't you just kill me, your Shifu, first? Now look at you. Our dear Highness the Crown Prince is going to go down in history, dragging me along with you. Oh my gosh, yeah, he's going off. No one dared speak in the Great Hall, and yet Sholian still looked at ease and responded calmly. Perhaps the state preceptor should look at it this way. If that child had fallen to his death with no one to catch him, spilling blood on the path of the procession, wouldn't that be equally ominous? Wouldn't the parade still have come to a stop? At the very least, the ceremony ended fairly respectably, which was the best case scenario. Let's just call what happened an accident. For a moment, the state preceptor's words were stuck in his throat, but then he blew up. You child! With so many royal guards at the scene, anyone could have caught him. Even if the catch was off and he broke his arm, he wouldn't have died. You could have just marched forward a few steps, performed a little flashier, and everyone would have forgotten whatever had fallen and moved on. Sholian raised his brows, however. State preceptor, you understand as well as I do, under those circumstances, no one else but me could have reacted as fast, and there was no second person who could have caught him without being injured. Let him fall, there'd be 1 dead. Catch him, and there'd be 2 dead. His tone was matter-of-fact and confident. The state preceptor also knew that what he said was true and couldn't refute him. Seeing him kneel before the divine statue, looking like all was well and nothing was the matter, made the state preceptor angry, amused, and proud all at once. See, I get it. Like, I get that this guy has, he has an agenda, he has a role to fulfill, he has, a kingdom to take care of as the state preceptor of Shanle, but also he fucking loves Sholian and he feels proud. He feels proud of him, even though he is doing things that are complicating matters, I like that. I really do like that. Before his precious darling disciple, he just couldn't get angry and could only pull at his own hair and use the pain of his scalp to relieve the worry in his heart. Oh, because he's worried. He's worried because of all these things, because this was an important thing and things kind of went to shit, kind of. But there's hope, right? There's hope. Still getting vibes from him. Like, this really could end up being Bai Wuxiang after all. Like, he's suddenly become like the most likely candidate to me. After a pause, the state preceptor spoke again. Another thing. Sholian inclined his head. This disciple is listening. You did well on stage today, the state preceptor said. But no matter how well you perform, you can't just suddenly change things up right before the start without a word of warning. Both majesties were terrified by your act today. Do you know what would have happened if we missed the fortuitous hour? Shellyan raised his brows, looking puzzled. State preceptor, hadn't I already asked for your permission in regard to this before today? The state preceptor was taken aback, too. You asked already? Before today? When? Hearing this, Shellyan turned his head to the side, his brows furrowed. Wuxiang? Oh my fucking god. That was the end of chapter 25, by the way, but what? What a way to end that! Oh my lord! Oh my gosh. We've done it. We've started our journey into the unknown, and I am already so satisfied. This is so much fun. Like, I'm stopping a lot on like a lot of details, but it's because I'm having a lot of fun trying to piece together things. And already, like, there are hints planted in this chapter that Wuxiang is not as calm and demure as the descriptions of him in the past will have him be. And now there's this implication at the end of this chapter that he was supposed to say to the state preceptor what they had planned to do, but then didn't. I am kind of worried, actually. What is this all about? I am so curious. I really want to find out, but I just did a count of the next chapter, and it's 60 pages. The next chapter is 60 pages, followed by a short 40-page chapter, but oh my lord. Like I guess, like, this was the short film. This chapter was the short film, and then some, like it was the short film plus. But, so not entirely new information all the time, but there were a lot of new things as well. The biggest thing that we were introduced to in this chapter that does not really feature a lot in the short film is the idea of the state preceptor, and also the fact that Shanda has one head state preceptor and 3 lesser ones. And again, I'm guessing this is the main one. And we are getting to know his relationship with Shellyan, as in, Shellyan is his favorite. Like, yeah, that tracks. And without having much evidence, I am like quickly boarding the train of, I wonder if this guy is going to turn out to be this guy. It is no coincidence that I have placed them very close to each other on the board. But this is exciting. This is very exciting. We're getting a lot more details. We are learning more about Wuxiang and what he is doing in these scenes and how Shellyan is responding. Fengxin makes an appearance. He did not make an appearance in the short film. Qirong is having way too many speaking lines for my liking. But also it's just like, you know, the moment you hear his voice, you're like, yeah, that's him, isn't it? And even the author is like, yeah, that's him. which I find kind of funny. I thought that was fun, actually. But he is here. And so is baby Wuxiang. And Wuxiang actually went with them into the palace after the parade because he was just clutching onto Shellyan so tightly. And I am so curious to know what his, like, he's described as being a lot younger than 10, like 7, was it? 7, 8, or was it 6, 7? I can't remember right now. But he's described as being very young and very gaunt. Like, he could be older, but his starvation probably made him seem even smaller, you know? It's what I'm betting at, but he is quite young. He is baby. Poor child. And then Shellyan is like, well, no one else would have been able to save him. So he did the right thing. There's no disputing that. He saved this boy and he made it so people did not die on this day. And even the state preceptor is admitting that, yeah, he feels kind of proud of his student, even though his actions have now unleashed these unfortunate things. In the prologue, the story is that the state preceptors begs the crown prince to face the wall in atonement or something, and he refuses to. So I wonder if that part is gonna come up, if we're gonna get some sort of explanation of that, because right now it seems like, yeah, the state preceptor is struggling a little bit with the situation being what it is, but he is very pro-Chilean. He is very team Chilean. And I love that for him. But yeah, I am very curious to know what is going to happen with Huachang after this. But as I understand, we won't be following him. Or could be. I mean, we have been following mainly the state preceptor this time around. But then when Chilean came to the scene, we did follow him a little bit as well. Like, we are this omniscient presence that just follows the characters that are most relevant to what is going on, it seems. But I wonder if we are going to be able to do the same with Huachang, or if we are mainly going to be following the story around Chilean. Again, the main character. And now this fucking mooching thing, we gotta uncover this. We gotta uncover this. Now, my question to myself is, do I read 60 pages? Do I read 60 pages? Is there like an interlude in these next 60 pages? I'm not reading now, by the way. I'm just leafing through looking for an interlude mark. Not reading anything. I'm not reading. There's literally not a single... I didn't even look at the art. There's not a single interlude mark in this chapter. It would be hard to divide it up. But also, I've only been recording for 3 hours. You know what? Let me get a snack. Let me get a little bit of a snack. And I'm gonna do it. We're reading chapter 26 after all, guys. We're reading chapter 26, guys. After the commercial break. Okay, I had a little snack and now I'm back at it. Oh my gosh, this is a long chapter. I can't believe that they haven't made it 2 chapters. 60 pages is a very long chapter. I don't know if there ever was a chapter this long in volume 1. There might have been. It was only 11 chapters long after all. This is a slightly longer, well, I don't know if it was slightly longer lengthwise. It does have more chapters though. Including a very short one that was like, what, 7 pages or something? 11? I don't remember. But let's stop rambling. I'm sitting up, I'm putting my notebook down over here so that I can have it easily accessible to me for when I need to take notes. Because I am suspecting that if we're still going to continue onto the story from where we are left off in chapter 25, there's going to be a lot of new information here for me. There's going to be so much new information. Okay, let's do it. Let's roll into chapter 26, which has a footnote. Lost red pearl inadvertently luring the red-eyed. The footnote here is eyes red with envy is an idiom that indicates jealousy, similar to the English idiom eyes green with envy. Okay, so we're talking envy in the title. And we already know about the lost pearl. We know where that pearl went. But yeah, let's figure this out. Let's continue on. Just then, Function, who was kneeling behind Chilean, spoke up grimly. His Highness did indeed mention it yesterday. All eyes moved to him, and Function continued. Recently, His Highness has been putting a lot of thought into the heavenly procession, and yesterday he suddenly came up with the extraordinary idea of jumping off the tower to simulate celestial descent without changing anything else in the programming. At the time, His Highness was in the middle of rehearsals and couldn't excuse himself, so we sent Mu Qing to pass on word to the state preceptor and request the go-ahead. He raised his head, slight anger in his eyes. Mu Qing returned and told His Highness that the state preceptor had been informed, so His Highness performed today under the impression that he had permission. Who knew that the state preceptor was never told and that we almost ruined the event? The cultivators all looked at each other in dismay. The state preceptor asked, Who knew of this? The 3 deputy state preceptors shook their heads, all denying that they knew anything. The state preceptor turned to Mu Qing, his stormy expression turning into one of indignant anger. Oh my fucking god, this is not looking good. Is this really what happened, or is it a misunderstanding? We gotta find out. Mu Qing, you intentionally withheld this communication? His words and expression showed he already firmly believed that Mu Qing had purposely sabotaged the event. Sholian glanced at the silent, thin youth kneeling on the side and pondered his words before he spoke. State Preceptor, I think there must be some kind of misunderstanding here. Hearing this, Mu Qing slowly looked over, his gaze profoundly dark but not lingering. Sholian said, if he had purposely held back word, once the event was all over and we all compared notes, his deceit would be exposed and there'd be no way he could escape responsibility. Mu Qing is not a short-sighted imbecile, and he wouldn't have come up with such a low tactic. Besides, with the God-pleasing martial warrior missing, what advantage does his demon opponent have? Please hear him out, State Preceptor, and then draw your conclusions. Finishing his speech, Sholian inclined his head. Tell us, Mu Qing, what happened? Mu Qing lowered his eyes and said softly, I did pass on what His Highness bade me to say yesterday. The State Preceptor frowned. Wouldn't we know ourselves what you did or did not say? When did you tell us? Yesterday, an hour after the evening lesson, when the 4 state preceptors were resting at Xiang, I have no idea, Xiang Palace. Help. This disciple spoke from outside the window, Mu Qing said. The state preceptor turned his head to his 3 fellows, looking puzzled. Yesterday, after the evening lessons? What were we doing then? Just as he asked, he remembered, and traces of awkwardness colored his face. The other 3 deputy state preceptors also coughed nervously, their responses ambiguous. Nothing really, just resting is resting. Seeing how the state preceptors stammered, everyone understood immediately what is going on. What are they understanding? Because I am not understanding. The Royal Holy Temple was a place of quiet meditation and training, but there was very little entertainment save for small games that could serve as amusement. One of them, the most popular one, was playing cards. Oh my god, the state preceptors were playing cards. So they didn't hear Mu Qing or were too distracted and just sent him away or something. Is that what happened? That's kind of funny, but oh my god, so unfortunate. If this is what happened, I am so sorry, Mu Qing, but your actions make you out to be very antagonistic, actually. Cards could only be played in secret, seen by no one. The state preceptors had long been bored out of their minds residing at the Royal Holy Temple, so they were heavily addicted. When they started playing, they would forget everything and everyone and fall into a state akin to hysterical obsession or drunkenness. Nothing from the outside world could be heard. If Mu Qing had told them anything at the time, how could they possibly hear? One of the deputy state preceptors said, maybe there were too many people. Your voice was too quiet, and we didn't hear clearly. Yeah, we didn't hear clearly. The state preceptor, on the other hand, was doubtful. Did you actually go to Xiang, the palace, yesterday? I absolutely did, Mu Qing said. And as proof, he relayed without fault the dress, look, and accent of the guard standing at the door. The state preceptor had to believe him, but he still frowned. If you had gone to Xiang Palace, you could have just passed on the message to the trainee outside the door or entered the chamber and spoken to us in detail. Why speak outside by the window? You didn't even confirm whether we heard. Mu Qing responded softly. This disciple tried. This disciple spoke politely to the
Shuxiang, guarding the door. I'm guessing that means like, I did a little bit of a crash course with the sh part. So, like someone older and training as a cultivator as well here, along with mooching. But for some reason, that Shuxiang, I need to practice this. I need to practice these words. That Shuxiang had to make things difficult and wouldn't let me into the chamber to pass on word for me. He mocked me and drove me away. After a pause, he continued. This disciple had no other choice, so I went around to the other side of Xiang Palace and tried to pass the message through the window. After I spoke, I heard one of the state preceptors say, I get it, now leave. So this disciple took that as consent to his highness's plans and returned. Oh no. Oh gosh. Okay, unfortunate little misunderstanding here. And also a glimpse into mooching facing difficulties here at the cultivation hall, which again we know is a possibility considering how he was allowed in as a trainee after Shirlian recommended him. Before that, he was a servant at the hall. So there would perhaps be other disciples who would look down on him. This makes perfect sense to me, actually. The state preceptors pursed their lips and didn't speak. At the height of the round of cards, who would pay attention to whatever was said outside? If they heard anything, of course they'd respond offhandedly with, I get it, but they probably didn't even know where the voice came from. Shirlian knitted his brows. That such a thing would happen. Which trainee was that impudent? He's got guts to be so disrespectful to one of my messengers. Although Shirlian was usually friendly and rarely put on airs when interacting with others at the Royal Holy Temple, he was still nonetheless the esteemed son of the king, the prominent crown prince. Even as he knelt before the statue of God, he had not shown any humility. Well, there we go, a little bit of that pride. So with this sudden turn to sternness, he was authoritative without needing fury. Everyone felt quiet, and the state preceptors wore unreadable expressions on their faces. Why didn't you report this to me when you returned yesterday? Shirlian asked. Mooching turned around while still kneeling and prostrated, his voice quiet. Your Highness, there's no need to look further into the matter with that Shuxiang. I didn't say anything after returning yesterday simply because I don't want to make this into a big deal. In any case, it's nothing major. If your Highness was to defend me openly, it would hurt the camaraderie between everyone. Shirlian disagreed, sounding upset. What camaraderie are you talking about? The kind of camaraderie that's used to abuse others? Hearing this, the state preceptors sitting on the side looked even more agitated. At the end of the day, something like this happened because the state preceptors disliked mooching. When they were displeased, the trainee attendants naturally followed their lead, not to mention that mooching himself simply wasn't very likable. Yeah, okay, so this is kind of true actually, because like I said, in the end, mooching hasn't really done anything wrong, but his attitude and his actions, like he is very cold and hides his intent. He hides his intent. I think this is why when Shirlian describes him as he experienced mooching in the past, he says he was, more gentle and soft-spoken. But really, that was, his facade in a sense. But at the same time, he is definitely facing a lot of opposition. It says here, black on white, even the state preceptors didn't like him. They've accepted him into the temple because of his skill after Shirlian recommended him. But he must still, looking at this, he's still facing a lot of hardship, even though he's not a servant at the temple anymore. Though he's still a servant to Shirlian, I suppose. That's the impression I've been getting anyway. But he's not making it easier on himself with his attitude, which again, I'm thinking he has learned, from his upbringing. That's my theory for now. So not only did fellow trainees avoid helping him, they went out of their way to make things difficult for him at every turn. Of course, their high and mighty disciple wasn't trying to ridicule them on purpose, but he certainly did take a jab. Wuxiang was continuously making concessions in his story, but Puffin couldn't listen for another minute and suddenly interjected. It really was nothing major, but you had to go and make it complicated. If you had told the trainee at the door that you came to deliver a message at His Highness's command, would he still have the gall to block your way? Also, right before we departed today, the state preceptor asked you where His Highness went. Why did you answer so vaguely? Could you not have said clearly that His Highness was on top of the tower waiting for the procession to start? Wuxiang immediately argued back, calm and steady. I thought the state preceptor already knew and didn't expect to be asked that question, so I was confused. But right after, I told the state preceptor that His Highness had already said not to worry, that the procession could start without delay as planned, and that His Highness would be back promptly. His Highness might not have been there at the time, but there were many at the scene who heard me. So how can you say I did this intentionally, or that I was being vague? Puffin stared at him angrily, but if he thought about it carefully, Wuxiang did in fact say all that. The problem was that the state preceptor was too anxious and didn't want to make hasty decisions. If he was going to pick at faults, there really wasn't enough evidence to prove anything. Just then, Sholian spoke up again. All right. It was all just an untimely mistake, a misunderstanding. Let's count it as bad luck, so stop fighting. Puffin looked extremely displeased. But mindful of his position, he dared not be clamorous in the Palace of Divine Might and stop talking. The state preceptor didn't want to pursue this topic anymore either. After all, if they must get to the heart of the topic, wasn't he at fault too for being too engrossed in card games? Thus, he simply waved and sighed. Gosh, this guy's so fucking funny. Actually, I adore him. Does he have a name? Why is he only state preceptor? I love this guy. He's me. He's so me. I see myself in him already. Let's talk about that later, and we shall put our heads together and think of a way to see how the situation can be salvaged. The three of you are dismissed. Go, remove your costumes and do whatever else you must. Sholian bowed and rose to his feet immediately. Puffin and Wuxiang both properly kowtowed once before rising, following Sholian, who was about to leave. Sholian had 1 foot over the threshold when he heard the state preceptor speak up again. Your Highness! Sholian turned his head. Both His Majesty the King and Her Ladyship the Queen asked after you today. If you have time in the next few days, go and see them, the state preceptor said. Sholian grinned. This disciple understands. After leaving the Palace of Divine Might, the three of them traversed a large portion of the summit and returned to the training hall built especially for the Crown Prince, the Palace of Shanle. So is that the palace that Jungwoo made the Palace of Shanle in heaven after? Is what I'm guessing. There, Sholian could finally remove his ceremonial garb. As mentioned before, for the Shangyu and Heavenly ceremonial procession, the ceremonial attire of the God-Pleasing martial warrior was exceedingly strict in every detail. Each accessory and fold had meaning and could never be mismanaged. For example, the outer robe was white, symbolizing divine purity. The inner robes were red, symbolizing canonical tradition. The golden crown that fastened the hair symbolized imperial power and wealth, and the white plumes folded away at the heart symbolized the flight to ascension. Loose corded ribbons along the sleeves symbolized his duties to carry the common people, and so on and so on. It was easy to imagine that from head to toe, both wearing and removing it was no simple task. However, as the esteemed crown prince, naturally he didn't do anything himself.
He only had to stand and open his arms wide in that refreshing, fragrant chamber and chat with Fungshin while he waited for his personal attendant Mu Qing to help him remove layer after layer of the God-pleasing costume. Okay, yeah, that's I've known about this. Mu Qing is his personal attendant, aka the person who gets him dressed and undressed. And Mu Qing simultaneously has been participating in this event himself, so he is in his own ceremonial garb, so he's got twice the work after the job was said and done. The outer white robe of the God-pleasing costume was of high quality. The pattern of the thread was exquisite and detailed, and the fringes were sewn with intricate light golden patterns, elegant but not frivolous. In comparison, the black material gi of the demon costume was like the difference between heaven and earth. Mu Qing himself hadn't removed his black gear yet, his hands full with the God-pleasing costume he had removed from Sholian. His fingers twitched, imperceptibly stroking the material of that white robe. Next to him, Sholian removed the golden crown, letting his long hair loose as he sat down on the edge of his sandalwood bed. He kicked off his snow-white boots and waited for someone to bring him fresh clothes. He waited for a bit, but noticed that Mu Qing wasn't moving, so he tilted his head. He asked, "What's wrong?" Mu Qing quickly snapped out of it and replied, "The costume seems dirty in some places." Sholian hummed thoughtfully and said, "Bring it over and let me see." Sure enough, the snow-white attire was marked by 2 distinct little black handprints. Sholian took a look and remarked, "They're probably from that little kid who fell from the sky. He was grabbing onto me and wouldn't let go. The child's face was wrapped in bandages, so maybe he had taken a tumble somewhere or something. Fungshin, did you check him out?" Fungshin was just wrapping up the sword and long saber used during the God-pleasing performance, and he replied gloomily, "No, I took him out of the palace and was about to take a look at his face, as you asked, but he kicked me in the shin. It actually fucking hurt." That's amazing. That's an amazing first interaction with the future ghost king of... Oh, that's amazing. Oh my gosh. It actually fucking hurt. Sholian fell over on the bed laughing, pointing at him. God, same. "It must be because you were so mean. Otherwise, why didn't he kick me, but did kick you?" "I wasn't mean," Fungshin cried. "That damn kid ran away so quick, it was like he was possessed by the devil or something. If he hadn't, I would have picked him up upside down and shook until he cried from fright." Mu Qing turned the white robe over in his hands. "I hope that kid isn't a beggar, he's so dirty. A simple grab left black prints like these. Your Highness, the God-pleasing costume can't be dirty. Isn't that another bad omen?" Sholian stayed lying on the bed, and he casually grabbed a book from the headboard and he used it to cover half of his face. 3 times around the capital, my good name's already going down in history with that incredible record. If it's dirty, it's dirty. Just wash it." After a pause, Mu Qing replied quietly, "I will do my best to be careful when I wash it." Sholian flipped through the book and came to a page illustrating the art of the saber, and he remembered the vigorous sparring earlier that day on stage. He smiled. "Mu Qing, you fought well on stage today." Mu Qing's shoulders stiffened. Sholian continued, "It was only today that I discovered you're much more skilled with the saber than you are with the sword." Mu Qing's face relaxed and he turned around. There was even a little smile playing on his lips. Why do I love this? Why do I love this so much? There was even a little smile playing on his lips. "Really?" "Yeah," Sholian answered. "But you might have been too hasty. Swinging a saber isn't like swinging a sword. Look here." The moment the topic shifted to martial arts, Sholian became highly enthusiastic, even more possessed than the state preceptors playing cards. He jumped off the bed without even putting on shoes, demonstrating his point on the spot using his hand as an imaginary saber. Mooching wore a complicated expression, but after Shirley demonstrated a few moves, he started to watch seriously. Function, on the other hand, swung the now properly wrapped long saber and chased Shirley back onto the bed with it, scolding as he did so. If you're going to show off, at least put on your shoes before you do. You're the crown prince. Hair loose and feet bare, what a disgrace. Shirley was just at the height of his excitement when he got chased onto the bed like a duck to a pen. He sulked. All right, geez, he said, and ran both hands through his long hair, ready to tie it up before continuing his lecture to Mooching. Suddenly, he frowned. That's weird. Okay, something else is happening, but oh my god. Oh, just the mood in this page. This page is so good. Just them being, silly little boys together, being nerds about martial arts, and just the change just in all of them, like Shirley getting to nerd out, Mooching, taking this seriously, and also actually taking the compliment. That hit. And then Function is just... oh, they're so silly. I love this so much. But anyway, that's weird. Okay, I saw the art first. It's about the earring. It's about the earring. So this is so cute. So we've got Shirley in his under robe or whatever, new clothes or whatever. Function holding the saber, and then Mooching with the clothes. Oh, look at these babies. Look at them. I'm trying to look at the Donghua counterparts to see if there are any similarities to be had, and I kind of see it in the bangs on Mooching, and I guess I don't know about Function. He has the long bangs as well, but they are they're wearing their hair differently. They're doing stuff a little bit differently, but this is Mooching. Still in his garb, I suppose. The other robes, the ceremonial robes, and then Shirley's little face with the dot face and the little oops. What is it? Function asked. Shirley pulled at his earlobes. One of the earrings is gone. The people of Shanle believed that the pinnacle of Taoist cultivation was the harmony of yin and yang, the unity of male and female. The form of the gods were inexhaustibly changing and naturally unbound by gender restrictions, shifting male or female as they willed. And that belief was also woven into the design of the God-pleasing costume. Throughout history, every God-pleasing martial warrior was adorned in accessories that possessed the form and details of both sexes, earrings, bracelets, and so on. When Shirley was preparing for the role, he pierced his ears and put on a pair of earrings. They were a pair of magnificent deep red coral pearls that gleamed resplendently, lustrous and smooth, and extremely rare. However, when Shirley was combing his hair just now, only one of the red coral pearls from the pair was left. The moment he said it was lost, Mooching's relaxed expression froze again. But the other two did not notice at all. Function looked all over the chamber first, inside and out, but returned empty-handed. You're so scattered-brained that you can even lose things worn on your ears. I don't see it in the Palace of Shanle, so I'll go out and look and search the roads. It better not have gotten lost during the parade. Shirley was puzzled too, but he also didn't care that much. Maybe if it did, then there's no way you'll find it. If it's lost, it's lost. Mooching, however, brought out the broom he usually used to sweep. He said quietly, "That pearl is too precious. We should at least try to look for it. Maybe it rolled under the bed or a shelf." He then started sweeping. And Shirley responded, "Why don't we call for a few more hands to help? Crowds get handsy. We don't want anyone sneaking it into their pockets before we find anything," Function said offhandedly. Mooching was quietly checking under the bed, but when he heard Function's words, his face momentarily turned a shade of deathly white. He shot to his feet and crack. The broom in his hands snapped in two. Shirley was startled. Ever since they left the Palace of Divine Might, Fungshin had been filled with complaints about Muqing, but he never let any of them loose. Now that he saw Muqing blow up first, he got angry too. "What are you doing breaking things so suddenly? Who pissed you off now?" Muqing replied coldly. "Why don't you tell me straight what you really want to say, instead of casting shadows where there are none? I have nothing to do with the lost pearl." He thinks that Fungshin was implying that he would have taken it. Okay. Fungshin said offhandedly that people will get handsy if we get more people in on this. And Muqing took that personally. Fungshin had always been a straightforward individual, so this was the first time he had heard someone accuse him of casting shadows where there are none. He laughed from sheer anger. "Why don't you tell that to yourself? What did I say? I didn't say you stole it, but you got all flustered. What? Feeling guilty?" Shelian broke out of his shock and sat up on the bed, crying, "Oh no," in his head. "Fungshin, that's enough." A few veins popped on Muqing's forehead. Fungshin really didn't think much of it and asked in confusion, "What?" It really wasn't the right time for Shelian to explain, so he could only try to pacify Muqing. "Don't misunderstand. Fungshin was just making offhand comments. He wasn't targeting you." Muqing clenched his fists tight, then released them, and at last took control of his temper. However, his eyes were growing red, and he turned to Shelian, enunciating each word as he stared at him. "You don't keep your promises." "No, you're wrong," Shelian cried. "Promises? What is he on about?" Muqing closed his mouth and took a few breaths, then cast a furious stink eye at Fungshin. Without another word, he dashed out the door. Shelian jumped off the bed and was about to give chase, but he was yanked to a stop mid-step. "Your Highness, you haven't even put on shoes. It'd be a disgrace to go out with your hair down and in such a mess." "Help me stop him," Shelian ordered. "At least put on your shoes first and tie your hair," Fungshin said. "And leave him be. He's always moody like this. Who knows what nerve we touched to make him go mental out of the blue." Muqing was long gone by then, and Shelian knew he wouldn't be able to catch up anyway. Instead, he grabbed for a hair tie to fasten his hair in a rush. He sighed as he did so. "He wasn't going mental, you just said the wrong thing by accident." Fungshin brought Shelian's usual white training garb out of the closet and threw it at him. "What did I say wrong?" Shelian replied as he slipped on his boots. "I can't tell you. Either way, come with me to find him and tell him it was all a misunderstanding, that you weren't accusing him of anything." Fungshin frowned. "What can't you tell me?" Okay, so there's something here. Muqing is a very sensitive person. That's undeniable at this point, I think. It seems that he has a sort of promise with Shelian. Shelian has promised him something, and Shelian knows something about him that he's not telling people like Fungshin. Fungshin is indeed very prim and proper, but he is also very straightforward. He doesn't beat around the bush. So, they're very different personalities. So I can see why they would clash over these sort of things. But yeah, we're hitting a nerve here, and I think it has to do with stealing. It's got to do with stealing. And I think that because, again, Muqing is from the slums, that is probably I don't know if he would ever have to do it, if he has ever stolen in order to eat, in order to survive or something. But thievery is definitely one of those things that you might associate with people who've grown up in those circumstances. And I think it's a very sore spot for Muqing. I think that's what this is about. We'll see, though. It could be something else as well, but judging from the context of this conversation. Shelian's lips were sealed tight. Fungshin was growing more suspicious and thought back on Muqing's furious expression just now. He spoke up suddenly. "He didn't actually steal from you before, did he?" Shelian immediately made a vigorous shushing gesture with his hand. No. Seeing him like this, Fungshin was even more sure. "So that's it. No wonder his face changed so drastically. Is it because I touched a raw nerve? When did he steal?" Did he actually steal? Did he actually steal from Sholian? Not so loud, Sholian hushed anxiously. Fungshin hushed his voice. Something like that happened and you didn't tell me? Tell me now! Since Fungshin was already suspicious, Sholian figured if he kept lying, it would come out either way. He had to woefully relent. It doesn't really count as stealing, but... Sholian sighed. I'll start from the beginning. Do you remember 2 years ago, when I first entered the Royal Holy Temple? There was a time when I lost a leaf of gold foil. Hearing this, Fungshin's eyes widened and he slapped his thigh. It was then? 3 years ago, Sholian begged and pestered in all manner of ways until his parents finally relented and allowed him to enter the Royal Holy Temple for training before the age of 20. A year later, when construction was completed on the Palace of Shanle, Sholian jubilantly entered the mountain. When Sholian first moved in, the amount of luggage he brought personally wasn't particularly large. He had only 2 carriages full of books and 200 treasured swords. Books and swords. This is so Sholian, huh? But the queen loved her son dearly and was afraid that the ascetic life would be too quiet and austere. So later she ordered 20 servants and 4 large carriages full of the crown prince's most beloved trinkets to be sent to Mount Taizang. It was an impressive, dramatic sight as those caravans drove up the mountain. Included in this care package was a set of the 108 leaves that made up a gold foil palace. Building a palace out of gold foil was a popular game enjoyed by the Shanle nobility. At the time, so much luxury appearing at the mountain caused a small wave of complaints. The Royal Holy Temple consisted of serious cultivators who weren't that familiar with the prince's character just yet, and although they couldn't say much publicly, there was much grumbling behind his back. Did His Highness, the Crown Prince, come to train or to play? What could this son of the royal family cultivate if he only came for the fun of it? When Fungshin heard those complaints, he had a mind to dispute them. But Sholian told him not to worry about it, with a smile. It's only natural they should think that way. They'll know soon enough that I'm not here to play games, and they'll also know soon enough who among us is the true number 1 in this generation of trainees. Oh my god, the hubris! However, not long after, there was an incident. Sholian was trying to send back as many of the 4 large carriages and servants from the queen as possible, but when he was going through the inventory, he found that in the pack of 108 leaves of gold foil, 1 was missing. That set of gold foil sheets had been packed in the carriages, and once at Mount Taizang, it had never left the Palace of Shanle. If it wasn't lost on the road, then it had been stolen. Nothing was found on the road, so Sholian brought it up offhand to the state preceptor. Assuming it had been stolen, the state preceptor was enraged that someone within the Royal Holy Temple would commit the crime of robbery under the allure of golden foil. He was determined to recover the golden leaf at all cost, and if it should be found on anyone, the punishment would be severe to the utmost. Thus, the over 3,000 disciples of Mount Taizang were caught completely off guard when they had to drop what they were doing to be forced into teams to search room after room, chamber after chamber of every single training hall. It was a huge rigmarole that exhausted everyone. Yet unexpectedly, halfway through the search, Sholian abruptly changed his tune and apologized for causing everyone trouble, and said he suddenly remembered that he had already lost a leaf from that set of gold foil while he was still at the Imperial Palace. There should only be 107 leaves total after all. To investigate the whereabouts of the missing gold foil that night, the Royal Holy Temple went through a great deal of pain and was thrown into total confusion, so when His Highness the Crown Prince suddenly announced that they should forget the whole thing, when everyone was sweating with exhaustion, it was inevitable that many of the other disciples felt aggrieved. Thus, for the longest time afterwards, there was talk behind his back, things like,
Well, he's the crown prince, so he gets to call the shots, and hopefully next time his memory will be better and he'll remember the important things before calling for an investigation, and so on. In other words, Sholian was covering for Wuxiang and took the blow to his reputation because he could handle it. It didn't matter to him, but to someone like Wuxiang, the metaphor is back. The function metaphor. Function was furious listening to it, but Sholian still told him not to mind it and to quietly give it time. Sure enough, after that, Sholian crushed all 3,000 disciples completely and proved that he fully deserved the title #1 of the Royal Holy Temple. And because he was genuinely friendly and didn't rely on his background, his reputation gradually improved among his peers. Yeah, because that reputation could be fixed like that through his character and his hard work. Feng Xin wasn't one to remember the petty details, so he had forgotten this had happened. Now that it was brought up again, it dawned on him, and he was both shocked and angry. It was Wuxiang who walked away with that gold foil? Shh! Sholian hushed him and looked around to make sure no one was around. That gold foil leaf fell out of the rattling carriage while coming up the mountain. Wuxiang was passing by while carrying water and found it in the bushes. He kept it under his bed and hadn't figured out what to do with it. But that very night, the state preceptor suddenly struck, ushering everyone out to search their rooms. I didn't know him at the time. I just saw an errand boy who looked distraught. Later, while I was sitting outside, he came up to serve me tea and admitted everything. That's how I found out. Taking without telling is stealing. So you helped him bury the whole incident and told everyone that gold foil was lost in the imperial palace? While they were talking, Sholian had finished dressing and headed out the door. That's how it is. Okay, so according to the story as Sholian tells it, Wuxiang was just keeping it. He didn't know what to do with it, didn't know where it was from or whatever. And it seems like, yeah, it's just a series of unfortunate events, right? Of course, there is still a chance that, yeah, he actually kept it because he was figuring out how to, actually exchange it for stuff, use it, because if he, with his background, like he would never have held an item such as that, he would know how to sell it anyway without getting, questions, I suppose. Just making up theories, but the story as Sholian sees it is that, yeah, it was just an unfortunate coincidence. So that's what we're going off of, but it seems that Feng Xin is going to believe that, yeah, he was keeping it for with the intent to sell it or get something out of it. And also, he's still angry. Feng Xin was going to die from rage. He followed after Sholian. Your Highness, do you know just how many people talked about you behind your back when you first came to the Royal Holy Temple? Oh my gosh, he's mad because of Sholian's reputation. Feng Xin, why, you're so sweet. You're so sweet. Keep it down, Sholian said. He really did look quite distraught at the time, pale as a ghost. People here at the Royal Holy Temple already dislike him, so if I had said anything, his life here would be over. Our places in life are different, and we stand at different vantage points in this matter. The consequences can't be compared. Yeah, this is such a Sholian thing. This is such a Sholian thing to say. And it seems right and innocent right here, but as we know, that is still the attitude he takes on in the whole incident in Yong'an. I am a god. I can handle it. I can't die anyway. The consequences are incomparable. Puffin didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Just then, a few young trainees approached them and gave courteous bows, their faces full of smiles while greeting them. Your Highness! Sholian answered back with his own matching smile, and the two parties brushed past each other. He said to Feng Xin, See, I told you to give it time. Now I get along with everyone, and who dare say anything bad about me? The two of them entered Wuxiang's bedchamber, but didn't see a soul, so they left to keep searching. I already thought it strange at the time, since I hadn't heard that you'd lost any leaves at the palace, Feng Xin said. But I can't believe you didn't tell me about this for 2 years. You even told me that you had met him while he was sweeping. He asked me later not to tell anyone, Shirley said. I agreed, so of course I wouldn't tell, not even you. Since you know now, that means I went back on my word. But you mustn't tell anyone else. Well, as Shirley remarks, in the future, a secret spoken between two people is not a secret anymore. How does that even count as going back on your word? Function said. It's not like you told me anything. It's his own guilty conscience making him freak out that gave him away. No. You promise me right now that this stops here. Otherwise, I'll break up my relationship with you and you'll be cursed to never find a wife. Oh my god. Shirley threatens. Yeah, okay. So, Function did not marry, as far as I know. And also, yeah, the wife part didn't happen either. So I guess you cursed him with his. Did Shirley curse him with his fear of women? That's so. Function snorted dismissively. You break up with me? The day after our breakup, everyone in the kingdom of Shanle will know one thing. His Highness the Crown Prince fainted from tying his sock strings too tight while dressing. Fine, I won't say a word. Who gives a fuck about gossip anyway? Oh my god, Function is a hoot. I fucking love him. Oh, Function. His Highness the Crown Prince fainted from tying his sock strings too tight while dressing. Fucking hell, Shirley. He can do anything except dress himself, apparently. Is this why Shirley only wears one set of white robes? It's the ones that he knows how to take on and off. After a pause, he still decided to comment. I bet he thinks I'm always picking on him because I know about this gold foil business, but really, I just don't like people like him. A grown man overthinking so much of this or this and that. He must have suspected you told me a long time ago. Not even concubines in a harem have minds as convoluted as his. It's so annoying. He's not as bad as you make it sound, Shirley said. But yeah, this seems, this really is. Yeah. Mooching definitely overthinks and definitely has a pride problem, but he is also, these two people. Function has been with Shirley since he was, 14, and they are generally, more privileged than Mooching has been. Shirley especially so. And at least Shirley acknowledges it, but he acknowledges it in the sense of, well, the consequences for me are going to be less than for Mooching. While Function is, he is very straightforward. He's like, your actions and your words define you. And he doesn't like that Mooching's actions are the way they are, that his words are the way they are, that he isn't as, straightforward as him. Very conflicting characters, and I like this setup a lot, actually. So he's not as bad as you make it sound, Shirley said. The Royal Holy Temple had never lost anything before, meaning this was the first time he took something. And at the end of the day, it was for his mother. Well, anyway. Yeah, of course there's a mother. Of course there's a mother. He already swore that he would never do it again, so giving him another chance wasn't wrong. And he kept his word. Besides, when that little kid fell today, if Mooching hadn't cooperated with me, the parade wouldn't have ended so smoothly. Yeah, okay, so the Mooching and Shirley, they seem to vibe, kind of, in certain aspects, but Mooching has reason to be cautious. Like, he has this whole thing hanging over him. Yeah, because, to Mooching, not only is Shirley the fucking crown prince, Shirley is also the keeper of this big secret that could have him kicked out of the Royal Cultivation Hall, now as a trainee, but also, as a worker there, because he was working as a servant, and we have found the motivation. We have found the big motivation. There is a mother. There is the mother involved, and that means if Mooching is working to fend for his mother, that's the thing. That's his button. That's his weakness. If shit happens with his mother, he is going to make choices. I can already tell you that. Fuck, things are gonna happen with the mother. She's gonna be in trouble, either with like debt or something, or she's gonna be sick, or she's gonna like something is gonna happen with the mother. Is the mother gonna get the disease? The face disease or whatever? She might get the face disease. She is a walking death flag, and she's just been introduced to the story. Oh yeah. No, this is tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. This is the most obvious death flag that I have ever seen, and also explains so much. It explains so much. Function clicked his tongue. You're already going down in history for not making it 3 rounds around the capital. So of course he won't vex you further. Your Highness, I'm telling you, I don't believe a word he said at the Palace of Divine Might. Who here in the Royal Holy Temple doesn't know that when the State Preceptors play cards, he hears and sees no one? He had to pick that time to pass on the message and stubbornly refused to clarify under whose orders he was sent. It's like he was purposely trying to screw things up. Sholian shook his head and said gravely, To be honest, I may have been thoughtless in regards to this. I know mooching is disliked, so I originally wanted him to run more errands for me. I thought that if I let people know he's my personal attendant, they'd be nicer to him. But I didn't realize they were already so nasty. Not only did nothing get done, he got bullied too. If you think about it from another angle, you'll find his moodiness understandable. Fang Xin disagreed wholeheartedly. Why are you blaming yourself for his moodiness? You're the crown prince. How did you end up owing anyone anything for showing them favor? Your Highness, I really don't understand why you think so highly of him. Sholian grinned. Fang Xin, did you know there are so many people in this world that are nothing but rocks in my eyes? Fang Xin didn't understand. Sholian walked with his hands clasped behind his back. There are rocks everywhere, but precious jades are hard to come by. When it comes to martial arts, I've only ever seen 2 people who could be called jades. One is you, the other is him. He suddenly stopped and turned his head, eyes bright. I genuinely think that mooching is extremely gifted. How could I let such a precious jade be left to collect dust, denied from showing its beauty simply because of its background and temper? Sholian looked determined. No, I think that's wrong. You ask why I think so highly of him. It's the same reason I think so highly of you. Those who are destined to shine, I must let them shine. Besides, I don't believe that goodwill brings bad returns. Fang Xin stopped too after listening to Sholian speak, and he scratched his head. Yeah, oh my god, okay. Wow. Yeah. This makes sense. It makes sense that Sholian is also playing favorites. No, but seriously, so what Sholian is saying is that mooching is extraordinary. He had extraordinary talent as well, just like Fang Xin. And he recognizes that mooching is of an unfortunate background and circumstances, which would have made it hard for him to receive the training that he would need in order to actually, shine, as Sholian says. This makes a lot of sense, this whole train of thoughts. But also, he acknowledges that mooching has a temper. Sholian was not blind to this, so why is he 800 years later, mooching is so soft-spoken and whatever, I guess mooching was, he had a lid on, he kept a lid on it, a few outbreaks like this, but nothing like, the sharpness, the sarcasm and such that we see now. Yeah, okay, I get it. But anyway, Fang Xin stopped too. After listening to Sholian's speech, he scratched his head. As long as you know what you want, how you go about it is your business. Right, so, where did mooching run off to? Sholian asked. Just then, another couple of young trainees approached them, baskets in their hands, horsing around. When they saw Sholian, they called out to him in chorus, their voices happy. Your Highness!
Shilian responded with a smile too. The trainees came up to them and thrust their baskets before the pair, saying happily, "Will your highness have some cherries? They've already been washed in the springs, very clean and very sweet." The baskets were full of small round cherries, vivid red and looking quite adorable. Shilian and Fengshen picked out a few to eat, and they were indeed juicy and sweet. One of the young trainees asked, "When we walked over, we faintly heard your highness asking about Mu Qing. Are you looking for him? I think we saw him when we were passing through the cherry wood. Is that right? Thanks for letting me know," Shilian said. Thus the two hurried to the cherry wood. Atop Mount Taitsang, other than the abundant wild maples, there were also numerous fruit trees. Peaches, pears, oranges, and many others, including cherries. The fruit trees were nourished by springs, bathed in the mountain's mist and sunny dew, and bore fruits filled with spiritual energy. After offering a portion as tribute to the palace, the rest were reserved for the disciples in the temple, who could munch on them after a hard day's work. But outside the royal holy temple, it would be hard to buy even a single one with 100 gold pieces. The cherry trees stood in many neat rows, and within the fresh new leaves drooped dozens of cherries like red coral beads. Looking delightfully enticing, like red coral beads are. So, are we talking needle in a haystack sort of thing? Shilian and Fengshen walked for a while searching for Mu Qing in the woods, but soon after they heard quarreling voices coming just ahead of where they were, and they automatically slowed to a stop. Ahead of them stood 4 or 5 white-robed trainees, each with a basket in hand, appearing to have come to pick fruit. However, they weren't circling any fruit trees, but rather a person. Even from afar, their hearing was keen enough that they could clearly hear the particulars of the quarrel. One of the young men said, "No wonder there seemed to be less fruit in the woods lately. So someone's been squatting here and stealing." A soft voice replied, "The fruit growing on Mount Taitsang can be picked by any disciple at the temple, so how is it stealing? Besides, there are hundreds, thousands of fruit trees here. There's no way there's less fruit by my power alone." The voice belonged to Mu Qing, of course. From the sleeve corner that could be seen through the crowd, it seemed that he had already taken off the black demon costume and changed back into his usual plain training outfit. The trainee hummed, "Of course, if you were only picking fruit for yourself, there wouldn't be noticeably less. But you don't just pick for yourself, do you? You sneak them down the mountain for other people, exploiting your benefits. How shameless!" Shilian understood now. The trainees who couldn't stand Mu Qing were picking on him again. Mu Qing came from a very poor family. His mother, who lived in the city at the foot of the mountain, led a meager life. In the past, she made a little money from occasional seamstress work, but after her eyes deteriorated, she could no longer even do that. Okay? Disabled mother. My gosh. She had to wait for Mu Qing to bring home the money he earned running errands on the mountain. Sometimes he would pick some fresh fruit from Mount Taitsang for her to try. It wasn't anything major since there weren't any rules against it, but when said out loud it still sounded dishonorable. To publicly mock him over it like this was even more embarrassing. Mu Qing's voice was chilly. Shu shi qiong. Fucking hell, I need to practice this. Ju Shi Xiong. Zhu Shi Xiong. We rarely speak, but you pick on me again and again. Yesterday, you wouldn't let me through to Xiang Palace to pass on my message. How have I offended you?" That young man named Zhu was indeed the trainee who had guarded the door at Xiang Palace, and when he heard the incident from the day before mentioned, his anger flared. "You're the one who carelessly messed up your job and almost butchered that event, so why are you blaming me? You should blame yourself for acting all secretive and making people think you're up to no good. If you had just said outright what you were doing, nothing would have happened. Thanks to you, His Highness almost messed up his important duties, and I got yelled at by the state preceptor." As he griped, he threw the basket on the ground and motioned for everyone to surround and attack. Sholian couldn't watch anymore and shouted, "Stop!" The trainees were all shocked at the sound of his voice. They turned their heads and called out, "Your Highness!" Sholian and Fengxian approached. By then, Zhu Xiong had already grabbed Mu Qing by the collar and pushed him against the trunk of a tree, though the brawl had not yet started. If they really did fight, Mu Qing would have gained the upper hand, even 1 against 20. Nevertheless, if he wanted to stay at the Royal Holy Temple, he knew he must never raise his fist. Sholian smiled. "What's everyone doing?" Zhu Xiong was a decent, plain-looking man who looked up to the Crown Prince. Hearing Sholian's inquiry, he froze and quickly let go of Mu Qing. We were... Sholian continued to smile. "Although I don't know why everyone is quarreling, Mu Qing is my personal attendant. Anything he does is generally under my command. I didn't realize offense would be taken if I had him pick some fruit for me." The trainees all bowed. No, so it was His Highness who asked him to come. We misunderstood." On the side, Mu Qing leaned against the tree. At first taken aback to hear Sholian said he'd come under His Highness's command, he quickly fixed his collar, lowered his head, and didn't speak. Cold sweat was rolling down the backs of the trainees as they profoundly apologized to Sholian, then to Mu Qing, and finally picked up their baskets and hurried away, escaping the cherry wood. Sholian saw the basket Mu Qing had brought on the ground and bent to pick it up, passing it to him. "Want some help?" Mu Qing didn't take the basket, but he raised his head and watched Sholian with an unreadable expression for a moment before he spoke. "Your Highness." "What is it?" Sholian asked. "Why must you always show up at times like these?" Sholian only made a sound of confusion, but Fengxian grew upset. "What do you mean? Is it wrong to come and save you?" Mu Qing cast him a glance and took the basket. Just then, Fengxian stiffened his neck and said rigidly, "Listen up, what happened before was my fault. I didn't mean to accuse you of anything, I just made some offhand comments. There is no need for you to overthink it or suspect anything. I don't care for anyone other than His Highness, and I'm not interested in gossip. That's all I have to say, so stop being so difficult." At first, Sholian thought his tone was too aggressive, but toward the end it became strangely funny. Mu Qing glared at Fengxian, and Sholian waved his hand. All right, everything Fengxian said is true. Let's just forget what happened. Nothing's happened. A moment later, Mu Qing said, begrudgingly, "I'll look for that red coral pearl again later. Maybe it was dropped on the street." Sholian thought that it might be a bad idea to appear like he didn't care, so he replied, "All right, if you have the time, then thank you. But if it was dropped in the streets, somebody will have picked it up by now." Which begs the question, did Huachang just grab it and take it off accidentally, or did it actually fall out of Sholian's ear and then Huachang, who was there, kind of caught it? Or did Huachang, as it said here, pick it up off the street because he saw it later? So yeah, we don't know that yet. Did he pick it up off the street because he saw it and recognized it, or did he pick it up off Sholian because he was clutching onto Sholian? It seemed Mu Qing had nothing more to say, so he collected the bunches of cherries that had fallen on the ground and put them back in his basket. He hadn't picked that many in the first place. As he moved to leave the woods, Sholian saw many more enticing fresh cherries and casually picked a bunch, dropping them into his basket. Mu Qing was slightly taken aback. Sholian said, "Next time you want to pick fruit for your mother, just say you're picking them by my command, and no one will say anything. The state preceptor told me to return to the palace for a few days, so I plan on leaving tomorrow. Why don't you take a trip down the mountain too? But let's head back for today." It took a while, but at last Mu Qing muttered in a quiet voice, "Thank you, Your Highness." The next day, Sholian descended the mountain with Fengxian and Mu Qing in tow. The moment they reached the foot of the mountain, they saw a shining golden carriage right outside the huge mountain gates. A young man dressed in a colored brocade top, with a whip in hand, was lying in the front seat of the carriage. His legs were crossed and he looked smug and important. The second he saw Julien exiting the gates, he leapt to his feet and ran towards him in a mad dash, shouting with obvious joy, "Cousin Crown Prince, fuck!" There is so much Qirong in this book. Oh, he is haunting me. He's haunting me. This boy. This boy. This youth was of course Qirong. Only he would have the free time to wait aimlessly for Julien at the foot of Mount Taizang. He skipped over and happily exclaimed, "My patience has finally paid off." Julien grinned and ruffled his hair, laughing. Did Qirong grow taller again? How did you know I was returning to the palace today? Qirong giggled. I didn't. I just waited and knew you'd have to come out sooner or later. I refuse to believe I couldn't catch you. Free, aren't you? Julien said helplessly. Are you studying properly? What about sword practice? If Mother asks me to check your studies again, I won't make excuses for you. Qirong blinked, his eyes shifty, and suddenly he jumped up and down. Never mind all that, look at my new carriage. Cousin Crown Prince, come inside, ride my carriage back to the palace. He grabbed Julien's hand and pulled him to the carriage, but Julien could sense danger. You're driving? Function and Mooching approached too. Technically, servants should sit at the front, but Qirong's face fell immediately and he cracked a whip in his hand. I asked Cousin Crown Prince to get on, but I didn't invite you to. You think I'd let lowlives touch my golden carriage? Get the hell out of here! Julien quietly snapped. Qirong? Function had met Qirong many times before and already knew his foul mouth and vulgar, condescending attitude, but Mooching had never entered the palace before and so had naturally never gotten the chance to meet Prince Xiaojing. Qirong was feeling extremely aggrieved, but seeing Julien about to walk away, he painfully and begrudgingly condescended to let the two shitty lowlifes board his precious golden carriage. However, as soon as they entered the carriage, all three of them immediately regretted their decision. Qirong drove like a madman, whip in his hand, lashing non-stop, screaming who knew what. The white horse shrieked in shock, and they trashed down the streets, with wheels spinning frantically. Qirong refused to stop no matter how much Julien screamed for him to do so. They almost crashed into a number of pedestrians and stalls, and it was thanks only to Function and Mooching, who sat at the front and grabbed the reins to guide the horse, that the berserk journey did not cost at least 20 lives. When they finally reached the palace and the carriage slowed down, Julien, Function, and Mooching all breathed a sigh of relief at the same time. Julien wiped away his cold sweat. The other two had been lashed by Qirong's whip a number of times and their hands were covered in welts. Oh my fucking lord. This was not the Chandler 4 I was promised. Where is my Chandler quartet? Qirong rose to his feet, one leg stepping on the white horses behind. He proclaimed proudly, What do you think, Cousin Crown Prince? I drive pretty well, right? Oh my fucking god. Julien dismounted the carriage and replied, I'm going to tell Father and Mother to confiscate your carriage. What? Qirong cried in shock. Regarding Chandler culture, first, they loved gold. Second, they loved precious stones. Third, they loved beauties. Fourth, they loved music. And fifth, they loved art. The Palace of Chandler was thus the most distinguished palace, where all they loved coalesced. Traversing the large courtyard, walking down the crimson hallway, not everything was gilded or built of jade. There were also masterpiece paintings hung all around, for example, and soft music wafted in the air. It created the illusion of paradise. The palace was Julien's home, the place where he grew up. Function was chosen to be his personal guard at the age of 14 and had long since gotten used to these sights. However, it was Mooching's first time seeing such a building, and he couldn't help but be awed. Yet the more awed he was, the more careful he became, and the more he didn't dare to allow others to sense what he was feeling. He didn't dare take a wrong step. Yeah, he is putting up the shields, building up those walls. Shilian went to meet with the queen straight away. She was resting at Chifeng Palace, leaning on a small tea table and tasting new brews. She had already received the message that the crown prince had returned, and with eyes crescent-shaped in joy, she extended both arms before her son had even come near. She said, "Finally willing to come home and see your mom?" Fangshan and Muqing stood guard outside. Shilian entered the chamber with Qirong in tow, and he reached out to take his mother's hands when he approached. "Didn't I just visit 2 months ago?" The queen grumbled. "What a heartless child. Even wronger knows to keep an old woman like me company. But here you are, sounding all self-righteous when you haven't come home in 2 months." Shilian chuckled. "And how is mother old? You look no older than a teenager. It's like we're of the same generation." Oh my god, Shilian, you're so cute. Oh, your mom is so sweet. The queen was very pleased hearing these words of praise. Even if she had a son as old as Shilian, because of her status and wealth as a member of the noble Min clan and wife of the king of Shanle, she was very well maintained and still looked the part of a noble beauty. Still, the word that left her lips was a light admonishment. Flatterer. Shilian glanced at the small tea table and saw a jaded cup, its contents emitting a strange fragrance. He curiously asked, "What's this?" as he picked it up. But the queen warned, "Don't drink it. That's not something you should drink." Shilian was curious. "Why can't I drink this?" The queen reached for the small jaded cup and took it from him, poured a bit of its contents on her handkerchief and pressed it gently to her face a few times. Is it a face thing? It's a beauty thing? Okay. Mount Taitsang recently sent a batch of fresh fruits. I don't like cherries, but there's a method of making them into a paste for facials, so I squeezed some for fun. There's not much use for it, and I was about to have it thrown out, so you can't possibly drink it. Shilian smiled as he listened, but suddenly recalled the events of the previous day. There were very few times in a year when Muqing's mother could taste cherries, and Muqing himself was bullied just for trying to pick some. It was something of a sensitive topic, and Shilian was afraid Muqing would be uncomfortable listening to it. So he smiled and changed the subject. So Muqing's mother can hardly ever have cherries, and here Shilian's mother, the queen of Shanle, is pressing them for a fun little skincare experiment. And Shilian is very aware of the differences between him, his family, and others. And also, like, his whole thing, the I want to save the common people, I think it's more than just, it seems so genuine now to me. It doesn't feel like just I want to be a hero, as in the tales, who does all these amazing things and therefore saves the common people. This is understanding the common people. This is looking at the situations as they are and admitting his own privilege and also taking it into consideration. Like, he is being very empathic in a sense, and like is actively trying. Like, Muqing is just standing outside being like, God, this is a conversation between a prince and his queen mother. But Shilian is still like, okay, how can I make sure that my personal attendant, who I believe Shilian considers his friend, but it seems complicated, okay? It's complicated because of their difference in status and also because of these secrets and Muqing perceiving Shilian to have, always have like something to hold over him, which is not good for the development of an equal friendship, though they do have great things in common that makes them, get along very well. The potential is there. Lost my thread. We're going to continue reading. Then do you have anything that I could eat? The queen chuckled. The way you make it sound, people will think I starve you. But you've been a picky eater ever since you were young. I can't plump you up. You've gotten so thin since you went to the mountain. Today you'll eat whatever I tell you to, with no fussing. Mother and son conversed for a while, and the queen asked about the incident during the heavenly procession with great concern. By the state preceptor's report, it sounds serious. What's going to happen? Will you be punished? Shelian didn't have the chance to answer before Chirong cut in. That wasn't Cousin Crown Prince's fault. He wasn't the one who fell off the wall. If anyone must be punished, it should be that little non-croaker. Oh, fucking hell. What the heck is a little non-croaker, Shelian thought. But also, yeah, this is it. This is what's leading up to Chirong finding Huachang again, right? Right? This is it. Before he could correct Chirong, however, the queen simply laughed. Yeah, that's a problem. That explains so much. Like, he was laying in her lap, eating grapes earlier, like she is spoiling him. And I guess part of it is the fact that, you know, Shelian left the nest, so to speak. He is out doing his thing and he is hardly ever home. So having, like, taken care of her sister's son might be a little bit of that compensation in a sense. But this isn't good. That's not great. And that explains a lot. Then she happened to notice the two outside the manor and asked, "Who's the child next to Feng Xin?" "It's the first time I've seen another person by your side." Shelian replied cheerfully, "That's Mooching. He's the one who played the demon on the stage yesterday." Hearing this, anger flashed across Chirong's face. The queen said, "Really? Have him come in so I can see his face. Feng Xin can come in too." Thus, Feng Xin and Mooching entered the chamber and knelt before the queen. She took her time looking over Mooching and said to Shelian, "I thought he fought rather well yesterday, a fairly respectable child. Looking at his face, you'd think he'd be a gentle minister. No one would suspect he would be so tenacious wielding a saber." Shelian grinned. "Right? I think he's quite good too." Chirong, on the other hand, commented coolly, "Oh, the demon yesterday was him?" Shelian heard his tone and felt dread. Surely, the next second, Chirong suddenly exploded. He snatched a small jaded cup from the little tea table, oh yeah, the fucking teapot, and swung it right at Mooching's face. "Here, your reward!" Fortunately, Shelian was faster. He smacked Chirong's hand, forcing him to drop the cup so the splash didn't make it to Mooching's face. Shelian pulled him back by the collar. "Chirong, what are you doing?" Even as he was seized, Chirong still ranted and raved. "Cousin, I'm helping you discipline an impudent servant. Before you showed up yesterday, he sure was enjoying himself, hogging the limelight. Who do you think you are? The star of the heavenly procession? Gonna overthrow the heavens too?" The queen was stunned. "Ronga, what are you doing?" Mooching's face was spared the splash, but his clothes weren't. Because the queen hadn't given him leave to do otherwise, he stayed kneeling on the floor, his face ghastly pale and gloomy. Shelian passed Chirong to Feng Xin. "Don't let him hit anyone." Feng Xin only used one hand to restrain Chirong, but Chirong kicked and punched, spitting as he shouted, "And who do you think you are to have the damn nerve to touch me so casually?" Shelian could feel his head throbbing. Gosh, same Shelian, same. "Chirong, you're getting more and more out of control." He then turned to the queen. "Mother, I forgot to mention something. Please confiscate his golden carriage." Shocked, Chirong yelled, No, why? That's Emu's birthday gift to me. Even if it is, it must be confiscated," Shelian said. "We almost caused a disturbance in the streets. You'd best not touch it again until you learn how to drive properly." The queen made a noise of surprise and asked, "Disturbance? What disturbance?" Shelian recounted the crazy saga of Chirong's driving. Chirong was furious, his eyes rimmed in red. "Cousin Crown Prince is wrong! I didn't run over a single person!" Shelian didn't know whether to laugh or cry. We have our first laugh or cry, and it's caused by fucking Chirong. Didn't see that coming, but I'll laugh or cry. I'll take it. That's because we stopped you. Chirong struggled out of Fengshen's hands and ran out of Chifeng Palace in a mad fit, not turning back even when the queen called out to him. She said helplessly, I'll talk to him tomorrow about confiscating his carriage, she sighed. That child has wanted a carriage for the longest time, so when his birthday came around and he still desperately wanted it, I gave it to him. Who knew it would turn out like this? Had I known, I wouldn't have done it. Why must he have a carriage? Shilian wondered. He said it's so that he can go to Mount Taitsang any time to bring you back to the palace, the queen replied. That's kind of sweet, but also, oh my fucking god. Shilian fell silent, learning that at the end of the day, it was a gesture of goodwill. After a moment he spoke. It'd be better to, instead, find him a good teacher and restrain that temper. He can't keep going on like this, the queen sighed. And what teacher can restrain him? He only ever listens to you, and we could hardly have him go to the mountain to cultivate with you. The state preceptor would die before taking him on as a disciple. Shilian found the idea both hilarious and horrifying. Agreed. He shook his head. With a temper like that, if he entered the royal holy temple, he would cause havoc for sure. Both mother and son were deeply troubled by this, but they didn't have any idea, so they let go for the time being. Oh my lord. Yeah, too little too late, I guess. That evening, after having seen his parents and caught up, Shilian rose to leave the palace. It was a well-known fact that the crown prince was obsessed with cultivation, and ever since he entered the royal holy temple, he visited his parents less and less. The king didn't comment much on the matter, but the queen was always reluctant to see him go. After leaving the palace, Shilian casually strolled around the imperial capital, accompanied by Mu Qing to visit his home as he had suggested the day before. The tall, opulent red gates and the impoverished slums were only a street away from each other. Mu Qing's former home was tucked into a dark alley of the most bustling area of the imperial capital. The three of them had just turned into the alley when 5 or 6 children in rags surrounded them. Gaga! Gaga is back! Oh my god, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? They're here for Mu Qing, right? They're here for Mu Qing. Shilian was a little confused at first, wondering why they would call a stranger Gaga, but then he discovered that the Gaga they were calling to wasn't him, but rather Mu Qing. Don't worry, Shilian, you'll have plenty of Gagas in the future. I even counted them for you. The children called out to him sweetly, but Mu Qing ignored them. There's nothing this time. Don't Gaga me so easily. His face was wooden, but his voice wasn't cold. He turned to Shilian. Don't mind them, Your Highness. They're just kids from the block. Still, this group of children obviously knew him well, so they were clearly used to playing with him and weren't scared at all. They giggled and surrounded him, their dirty little hands extended, begging for treats from Mu Qing. In the end, Mu Qing reached for the gem-like red cherries in his bag and handed them out. Fengshen was astonished at the sight, as if Mu Qing doing anything like this was nothing short of a miracle. Oh my gosh, so this is a moment, huh? This is Fengshen seeing Mu Qing taking care of someone for the first time. Because to Fengshen, like, his thoughts about Mu Qing is that he's prideful and self-centered and overthinks a lot. So I guess that's a little bit of a shock to see him, actually be selfless like that. It seems to me like they don't know each other that well at this point in time. This is their first time, first time Mu Qing meets Shilian's mother, and also the first time that they're going to see where Mu Qing lived, / where his mother lives, I guess. So we're in a getting to know each other part of the story, even though it's been a few years since Shilian came to Mount Taitsang. It was no wonder, since Mu Qing's pretty boy face always looked extremely selfish and cold-hearted, he seemed like the type that, seeing someone die from starvation on the streets, would still keep a tight grip on his own food. Shilian, on the other hand, wasn't surprised at all. At first, he also wanted to find something to give the children, but he didn't usually carry sweets on his person, and having Feng Xin give coins would be too much like dismissing beggars, so Shilian didn't think it would be appropriate. Suddenly, there was a boom, and a cacophony of galloping noises from the main street, the long shrieking whinny of a horse, and people screaming. What is going on? Boom? Are we already doing Rebel Army? This is a bit soon. We have no indication of this happening. What is going on? The three of them stopped, and Shilian rushed out of the alley. The main street was in chaos. Stalls toppled and people on the ground. It was total confusion. The pedestrians were all fleeing, and red apples and yellow pears rolled all over the ground. But before he could figure out what was happening, he heard the crazed laughter. Oh my fucking god, it's Qirong. It's Qirong. This is like domestic terrorism, Qirong. Crazed laughter of a young man. Out of my way, get out of my way. If you're that blind, I don't care if you get trampled. Feng Xin swore. It's Qirong again. Sure enough, Qirong stood atop his magnificent golden carriage looking malicious. He was lashing with his whip wildly, the white horse howling from the strikes. Stop him! Shilian shouted. The golden carriage whooshed by them. Feng Xin acknowledged with an understood before charging on ahead. Shilian was about to go check for any wounded among the toppled stalls and knocked over pedestrians left in the wake of Qirong's mad ride when suddenly he noticed something wrong. He whipped his head around and saw that there was something being dragged along behind the golden carriages. Oh my god, I think I know what this is. Attached with a long, thick hemp rope, at the end of the rope was a large sack that appeared to have something struggling. It looked like there was a person in that sack. At that moment, Shilian could only feel his blood run cold. The next second, he rushed forward. From all the whipping, that white horse was galloping like it was running for its life, furiously spinning the wheels of the carriage. Feng Xin was trying to hold the horse back, but probably wouldn't be able to stop it immediately. Shilian raced up to the carriage in only a few steps, unsheathed his sword, and struck down. The rope snapped in two, and the sack dropped to the ground, rolled, and came to a stop. Shilian bent forward to inspect it. The sack had been dragged for who knew how long and was torn from the scraping. It was extremely dirty and drenched in blood. It looked like a bag for a dead body. Another swing from his sword, and the rope tied around the opening was cut. He opened the bag, and there was indeed someone inside. What's more, it was a young child. Oh my fucking god. Shilian ripped open the entire sack. The child within was curled in a ball, hugging his head tightly. His filthy clothes were covered both in giant footprints and fresh blood. Even his hair was matted with blood. He was a mess, and it was obvious he had been severely beaten. So badly, he didn't even look human anymore. Judging by his size, he was only 7 or 8, and a tiny creature. He was shaking like a layer of his skin had been forcibly peeled off. Truly incredible that he was still alive after such a violent beating and being dragged through the streets. Shilian reached out a hand to feel his neck and found his pulse wasn't too weak. He sighed a breath of relief. He immediately picked up that small body, then turned around and barked a furious order. Feng Xin, arrest Qirong! This is fucking terrible. This is horrible. This is not just beating a child. This is torture. What the fuck? He could not believe that something like this could happen in the kingdom of Shanla. Under the light of day, on the main street, a member of the nobility stuffed a live human in a sack to be dragged behind a horse carriage. If he hadn't seen and stopped it, this small child would have been dragged to death this day. From some distance away came the sound of whinnying, and the angry roars of Qirong, and soon after Fengshen yelled back, "He's been stopped!" Sholian rushed toward them, just in time to hear Qirong howl in rage. "You damned audacious lowly servant! You dare hurt me? Who gave you the balls?" Turned out, Fengshen couldn't stop the horse, so he tried to snatch the reins instead. Of course, Qirong wouldn't let him, so the two pulled back and forth, and in a moment of carelessness, Fengshen bumped him and pushed him off the carriage. Oh no. Oh no. Qirong fell to the ground and rolled a few times, scraping his knees. Seeing that he was surrounded by onlookers, he felt nothing but rage and embarrassment. However, Sholian cut in. "I did!" Qirong opened and closed his mouth a couple of times before finally crying. "Cousin Crown Prince!" Sholian said angrily. "Look at what you've done! Qirong, I really—" Just then, he felt the child in his arms jerk. He had loosened the hands hugging his head and was peeking up at Sholian from the gap between his elbows. Sholian immediately restrained his anger and lowered his head to soothe him in a gentle voice. "How do you feel? Do you feel pain anywhere especially?" The child was amazingly still alert, not unconscious from pain, nor frozen in shock. He shook his head, and Sholian noticed that what little of his face was visible was bleeding, and he was about to check for other head injuries, but the child firmly clutched half of his face with his hands, stubbornly refusing to show him. Sholian coaxed, "Don't be afraid, everything is fine. I only want to check your injuries." The child, however, pressed his hands down harder, revealing only one large obsidian eye, looking panicked. "Sholian, do you not recognize this child?" I mean, Wuxiang obviously recognizes Sholian. He obviously recognizes that this man, like, imagine this. This kid is falling to certain death. He's scared half to death, and then he's caught and saved by the Crown Prince of Shanle, who is holding on to him tightly, telling him not to be afraid, defeating the demon and bringing him to safety. And only when he's calmed down, he actually lets go and, goes over to someone else. And then, this is not long later. This is just a few days after, right? It feels like it's just a few days. Like 2 days at most. He gets ambushed, tortured, probably scared half to death again by this random person who blames him for, messing up the parade for almost falling to his death, And then when he is saved this time around, when all that chaos stops, he's here again. That's twice. That's twice in 2 days that Sholian saves Wuxiang's life, baby Wuxiang. Yeah, this was... You can make religion out of this. But this panic didn't seem like it stemmed from a fear that he would get beaten, but rather that something would be discovered. Looking at this little face half covered with only one eye to be seen, Sholian suddenly realized he might have seen this child somewhere. He squinted as he thought. You think? You think? Yeah, Sholian, when Sholian looks into the crowd, he just sees pebbles, apparently, so... Isn't that a thing? Like, you can't recognize faces? It's like, this is like the guy in Apothecary Diaries who sees only, like, the chess pieces. Qirong saw his upset face and explained, "Cousin Crown Prince, that little non-croaker ruined your grand ceremony yesterday, so I avenged you." Yeah, literally 2 days. This happened over 2 days. "So I avenged you. Don't worry, I was careful. He won't die." He won't die? Oh my fucking god. Sure enough, the child held in his arms was the one who fell from the city wall during the Shengyuan heavenly ceremonial procession the day before. No wonder Sholian thought he looked familiar. This little child hadn't even changed. He was still wearing the same outfit as the day before, but because of all the beating and dragging, he was filthier, and the clothes looked nothing like they had yesterday. He didn't even look like the same person. Sholian couldn't hold back his anger anymore. "Who told you to avenge me? It has nothing to do with this child. It wasn't his fault," Qirong justified. Of course it was his fault. If not for him, you wouldn't have been scolded by the state preceptor. Oh my fucking god. I wish Wuxiang had, beaten him a little bit harder. He deserved to be beaten a lot harder. This ruckus was getting out of hand, and the crowd watching was growing. The onlookers whispered to each other. Just then, Wuxiang approached, and Qirong pointed his whip at him, expression laced with hostility. And you lowly servant! I can tell this one doesn't know his place just from the look of him. If you don't discipline him, sooner or later he's going to overthrow you and step on you, his master. I helped you discipline him, but you turned around and defended him instead, and told on me too. Now Yifu and Yimu are not only ignoring that I did it for you, they're even going to confiscate my golden carriage. Cousin, that was my birthday gift. I wanted it for over 2 years. Wuxiang gave Qirong an unreadable, sweeping look. Shelian laughed from sheer rage. I don't need your help, not like this. Are you really avenging me, or are you avenging yourself? Cousin, why would you say that to me? Qirong asked, confused. And what have I done wrong in being on your side? Shelian couldn't talk sense with him. Qirong, listen here. From now on, you're not allowed to touch this child. Not even a finger. Do you hear me? Just then, Shelian felt a pull on his neck. He was wrapped up in a fit of anger, so it startled him. He looked down and saw that the young child had buried his face in his chest. His arms tightly circled around Shelian's neck. Shelian felt him shake uncontrollably and thought he was in pain. He asked hurriedly, What's wrong? The child was covered all over in mud, grime, and blood, filthy and unkempt. It all smeared onto Shelian's white robe, but Shelian didn't mind at all. He gently patted the child's back to comfort him and soothed him in a low voice. I'll take you to the doctors right now. The child didn't respond, but he hugged Shelian even tighter. He held on with a death grip and wouldn't let go, as if he were holding on to a lifeline. I am imagining that Shelian is literally the only good thing that has happened to Wuxiang in a while. Holy shit. Qirong could see that Shelian wasn't going to acknowledge his goodwill, his heart solely with outsiders. And when he saw that kid soiling Shelian's robes with bloody, muddy smears, his anger fled. He raised his whip to lash the back of the child's head. Oh my fucking god. Function was standing to the side, and in a split second, his leg flew out and kicked Qirong right on the arm. There was a loud crack, and Qirong screamed, Oh no! Oh no! Pushed him off the carriage, and now is that his arm? Did you break his arm, Function? Oh no. I've seen enough dramas, royalty stuff, to know where this is going. The whip fell to the ground, and his right arm dropped limply at an abnormal angle. He stood there frozen in disbelief, and it was a while before he slowly raised his head, glaring at Function, enunciating each word. You dare break my arm? The words chilled them to the bone. It was only after he kicked that Function realized what he had done, and his face changed. But Wuxiang's face changed more. It was one thing for them to detest Qirong behind his back, but for a personal guard to transgress this badly and accidentally break the arm of royalty, that was something completely different. Shelian had his hands full with that child when it happened, and the path behind him was packed with onlookers. Dodging the blow wouldn't be easy, but he would have managed it fine given the chance. But Qirong had come at him with such aggression and so little warning that Function moved too fast without thinking, and Shelian didn't have the chance to stop him. Now everything was in even more of an uproar, and Shelian didn't have time to think. His clothes were getting soaked with blood. If they delayed any longer, the child might die right there. Shelian made a split-second decision, inhaled deeply, and shouted in a clear voice. Everyone, if you were pulled into this incident today, please record any damages or losses. I will take responsibility without fail. Then he turned to Function and Wuxiang. I need to save the child first. Take Chirong away and don't let him cause any more havoc outside. Done with his instructions, Shirlian ran toward the palace with the child in his arms. Feng Xin heard the command, his expression back to normal, and he picked up the raging Chirong before following Shirlian. The soldiers guarding the palace gates thought it was strange to see the crown prince racing back, having left but a short while ago, but of course they didn't dare obstruct him. Thus, Shirlian ran straight for the Imperial Medical Office and made Feng Xin and Muxing wait outside the door with Chirong under arrest while he entered the infirmary alone. The crown prince rarely returned to the palace and rarely gave orders, so the imperial doctors naturally rushed over with due haste. Shirlian placed the young child in a chair and said, "Thanks in advance, everyone. This child was beaten by several adults, stuffed in a sack and dragged through the streets. Please check if there are any head injuries first. That's the most important thing." Neither royal nor noble had ever brought in a wild, dirty babe for them to heal before, but the imperial medical team also knew they needed to do whatever they were told to, and they acknowledged Shirlian's direction with a chorus of yes, yes, yes. One of them said, "Put your hands down first, little one." Although the child had been docile in Shirlian's arms up until now, he started struggling then and firmly covered the right side of his face, refusing to drop his hand because that's his eye, right? The red eye, right? Which he seems to have been demonized for, bullied for. No matter how competent the imperial doctors were, if the patient would not cooperate, there was nothing they could do. The doctors looked to Shirlian. "Your Highness, how?" Shirlian raised a hand. "He's probably afraid of strangers. It's fine. Let me." The child was sitting in a chair and Shirlian couldn't be level with his eyes, so he bent forward and tilted his head. "What's your name?" The child's large eye stared at him intently, his obsidian black pupil reflecting a snow-white silhouette. This gaze, if it must be described, was exactly as Feng Xin had said, possessed by the devil. It shouldn't be the gaze of a child. It was a while before the child bowed his head. "Hong." Is that actually his name? Is that actually his name? What the heck? I'm noting this down. I'm noting this down just in case. Is that actually his name? Hong? What the fuck? Did we just get a Huatong name reveal? His voice was tiny and soft, a little mumbled. It was like he didn't want to tell or that he was slightly embarrassed. Shirlian only sort of heard the word Hong, the color red, then asked another question. "Is his name Red? His name is Red?" Did his family name him for his eye, because of his eye? The crimson eye? That's Ming's eye, you know, the I don't know what to do with myself. This really might be his name. What the fuck? Oh my gosh. How old are you? 10! It's like I said, he appears to be like 7, 8, but he is actually 10 years old because he's, you know, emancipated. He's just starved. Probably did not grow right. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. 10 years old. Is that your name? Is that your name? You're not baby Huachong. You're not baby Hong. You're not Hua Hua. You're Hong Hong. Oh my god. Oh my god. Shirlian was only asking offhand, hoping to lower his guard, but hearing the child's shy response of 10, he was taken aback. This is exactly what I was just saying. Shirlian, I am writing this book. I am just writing this book as I am reading it. I thought he was only 7 or 8, but he's 10. This child is extremely malnourished and emaciated. That's the word, not emancipated or whatever I said. Emaciated. After a pause, Shirlian smiled softly. "The doctors will see to your wounds now. Don't be afraid and lower your hands, okay?" The child heard, but hesitantly shook his head. "Why not?" Shirlian asked. He was silent for a long time before replying. "Ugly."
This is no. This is not gonna be my first cry of this fucking arc. No, I refuse. I refuse. But it was very close there. Oh my god. Oh my god, I can't think about this too hard. I can't look at this too hard. His response was just that one word, and no matter how Shillian coaxed, he refused to remove his hands. Shillian promised that he wouldn't think him ugly. That he wouldn't. You were right, though. He was right. He promised that he wouldn't think him ugly, and he didn't. He didn't. No cry. I was not expecting to maybe need to use the tissue box at this point. This is not how I was expecting this to go. Oh my gosh, little Hong, you're not ugly. Shillian promised that he wouldn't think him ugly, that he wouldn't look, but not even turning around would do the trick. What obstinance at such young age. Without much choice, the Imperial doctors could only ask him a few questions, have him recognize a number of fingers, make sure he didn't feel faint or have any headaches, check that he was perfectly conscious of what he saw and what he thought, and attend to his physical wounds. As the Imperial doctors worked, they all appeared confused, clicking their tongues in awe. Shillian stood guard on the side, and hearing their sounds of wonder, he asked, "How is he, everyone?" One of the Imperial doctors asked, in spite of himself, "Your Highness, did this child really get beaten and dragged along the roads in a sack?" Shillian was speechless for a second. "Why would that be false?" The Imperial doctors replied, "Well, if that is the case, then amazing. I have never seen anyone so tenacious. He has broken 5 ribs and a broken leg and many other injuries big and small, but despite all of that, he's remained conscious this entire time and can even hold a conversation while sitting upright. Even adults would find that difficult, never mind a 10-year-old child. Oh no! Oh no! That's not good. That is not good. If you as a 10-year-old child have these kinds of responses to pain, no, this is not good. This is as I anticipated, but this is not good. Oh my god. Hearing how severe the injuries were, Shillian inwardly became even more furious at Chi-Rong. He looked at that child and saw that he was sitting there on his chair as if he felt no pain. Stealing glimpses at Shillian with that large obsidian black left eye. When he noticed he'd been caught staring by Shillian, he immediately turned his head away. Seeing this for some reason, Shillian thought the boy was both silly and pitiful. He asked, "Will his injuries heal?" One of the Imperial doctors wrapped new layers of bandages around the child's head and replied, "Not a problem." Only then did Shillian relax. He nodded. "Thank you for all your hard work." Just then, an attendant entered to notify them of the imminent arrival of His Majesty the King and the Queen. Each of the Imperial doctors immediately stood up and exited the Imperial Medical Office to greet them. Shillian moved the child to the bed and said, "Lie down and get some rest." It occurred to him that the child was afraid of strangers, and all the people who would be crowding in shortly might scare him, so Shillian lowered the bedside curtains before rising to his feet too. A number of guards and attendants escorted the king and the queen as they walked into the hall. The queen's face was pale. "My dear child, why did you return so suddenly when you just left the palace? Were you hurt outside?" "Please be at ease, mother," Shillian said. "I wasn't hurt. It was someone else who was injured." Just then, Chi-Rong cried out from the corner, "Emu, save me! Oh my fucking god." Only then did the queen notice Chi-Rong, to the side firmly held by Feng Shen and under arrest, and she was shocked. She was focused on the well-being of her son and had completely ignored everything else, but now that she saw, she asked, "Rong-e, what happened?" The king, on the other hand, knitted his brows slightly.
Function, why are you holding Prince Xiaojing like a criminal? When His Majesty arrived, Function should have bowed in greeting like Mooching and all the others, but because he had Qirong in hand and couldn't release him, he was put in an awkward situation. Sholian spoke up. It was under my command. Qirong held up his right arm. Yimu, my arm is broken. The queen hadn't had the chance to sympathize before Sholian cut in harshly. You broke an arm, but what about that child? What child? The king asked. A 10-year-old child, Sholian answered. Powerless, vulnerable, and frail in stature. Qirong sent his subordinates to beat him. If not for the child's tenacity, he would have been beaten to death on the spot. Qirong looked as if he had just heard a joke, his eyes widening. A powerless, vulnerable 10-year-old child? Frail? Cousin, you don't know how vicious, how savage, how spunky that little non-croaker was. He only pretends to be pathetic in front of you. I called for 5 or 6 guys and they still couldn't catch the brat. He trashed and bit them until they were bloodied all over. Oh my god. Well done, Huachang. Well done, Hong. If he hadn't angered me so, why else would I have dragged him behind my horse carriage? Hearing this, both the king and queen's faces fell. Sholian drew a deep breath and shouted, Enough! Do you think what you've done is impressive? Qirong wasn't one to shy away from the limelight. He was so arrogant and ostentatious that there was no way the citizens of the capital hadn't seen him. And after they saw, there was no reason he wouldn't become the talk of every dinner table conversation in the city. The king gave the queen a look, appearing a little grim. Take Prince Xiaojing away. Doctor, see to his arm. The golden carriage will be permanently confiscated. You will be confined to your palace and reflect on your actions for a month without release. The guard behind him immediately acknowledged the order and moved forward to take Qirong. Only then did Function let go. Qirong, however, no longer cared and humphed. Take it! Take it! I already knew today would be my last chance to drive it. The queen sighed sadly, hearing that he had no remorse or repenting heart. Sholian spoke up. It would seem that with only a month of detention to reflect, he will still do this again. There needs to be stricter discipline. Sholian is right. There needed to be stricter discipline ages ago. Holy fucking shit. This is not going to be fixed in a month, as we all know. Qirong was taken aback and stammered angrily. Cousin Crown Prince, you... But then he switched gears. Fine, I admit it. This time it was my fault. No matter how His Majesty punishes me, Qirong has no complaints. His next words changed the argument's direction. But shouldn't Cousin Crown Prince's servant also be punished? Yimu, my arm was broken by that Function, you know? Oh fucking hell. Oh fucking hell. I knew this. I knew it was coming. I knew this was coming. Hearing this, the king instantly shifted his gaze to Function, looking outraged. Function bowed his head and mooching imperceptibly shuffled 2 steps away. The king berated him coldly. Function, you are the crown prince's bodyguard. The crown prince treats you well and regards you highly. But have you forgotten your place? What is this arrogance? Your duty is to serve His Highness. Is this how you serve him? You dare raise a hand against the crown prince's cousin, Prince Xiaojing? At those words, Function was ready to kneel, but Sholian stopped him. No need to kneel. Function obeyed Sholian's command first and foremost, even under the king's orders. His priority was His Highness, and so he instantly straightened again. Seeing this, the king grew even more displeased. It's true that Function broke Qirong's arm, but the reason was to protect his master, Sholian said. Besides, Qirong was at fault first, not Function, so why must he kneel? It doesn't matter, the king said. Either way, he has offended Prince Xiaojing. There's a difference between masters and servants, a distinction of superior versus inferior. If I, the king, were to make him kneel, or if I punished him with 100 lashes, there would be nothing inappropriate about it. Although the king wasn't as affectionate toward Qirong as the queen was, Qirong was still nevertheless a part of the royal household. He was never to be disobeyed or offended. Yeah, That's a problem. This is a problem in this situation. Holy shit. Qirong knew this very well and said with a sidelong glance, "No need for a flogging punishment. He belongs to cousin Crown Prince. I don't want to make things difficult. As long as he breaks his own arm and kowtows before me 3 times, I can let it go." Holy fucking shit. The king nodded slowly to accept the decision. However, Sholian interjected, "If you must punish Feng Xin, you must punish me first. He's my servant. First of all, he's done nothing wrong, and second of all, if he was at fault, it was still done under my orders. I will take punishment on his behalf." Oh my god, this is such a mess. And the whole group is here. The whole crew is here. Okay, the art itself is fine, but it just immediately zoomed in on Sholian, and if you zoom in on Sholian, you can see baby Huacheng in the background. Hong, baby Hong, Hong, in the background, peeking through the curtain. Oh my lord! King Shanlei, you need to fucking, oh my god, yeah. I understand though. I understand these kinds of rules. I understand that they are gonna make this situation more complicated than I'd like it to be, but it really is what it is. When we described Qirong in the previous chapter, worst of all, royalty, this is what we meant. This is what we meant. Hearing him, rage flashed across the king's face. By and large, all fathers and sons in the world must go through this change. When the son is young, he idolizes his father as the greatest hero on earth, his own personal role model, and his worship is clear. However, when the son matures to a certain age, he starts to question everything his father does. This can even brew revulsion until, in the end, neither side will acknowledge the other. Sholian's fundamental objective for entering Mount Taizang was to improve his martial arts and search for the direction of his heart. However, he was never attached to a particular place where he trained, nor his identity. The so-called Tao of cultivation meant exactly what it said, to walk the path. As long as one's heart was set on the path with a singular mind, then training could be done anywhere. He didn't need to follow any dictated norms, nor enter the Royal Holy Temple, but there was another reason why Sholian had begged and pestered them to let him train on Mount Taizang, and that was because he didn't really get along with his father. Okay, this is new to us as well. As the esteemed Crown Prince of Shanle, the moment Sholian was born, the King of Shanle had already drawn out every detail of the path of his life, neat and orderly. It was all right when he was still young. A child had few worries, and Sholian only needed his parents to build gold-foil palaces with him, to frolic and play. As the years went by, Sholian saw more and more that his father wasn't only a father, but also the ruler of a kingdom. And many of their beliefs and actions no longer agreed. For example, the so-called royal authority was one of the things Sholian loathed. If they couldn't agree, then it was best to stay far away. Every time he returned to the palace, he spent time conversing merrily with his mother, but he never had any heart-to-hearts with his father. Little father issues here, okay. Neither of the two ever took the initiative to talk to each other, and it was the queen who always mediated between them. And now, with Sholian stubbornly refusing to back down, the king said, "Very well, take his place if you must. Let's see if you can actually withstand it." "Of course I can," Sholian retorted. The queen saw the two of them butting heads again and anxiously intervened. "Why must it be like this?" Just then, Feng Xin, who hadn't spoken a word, suddenly raised his left arm and struck down on his right. There was a loud crack. The crowd was startled and looked toward the sound and saw that his right arm was drooping limply, exactly like Qirong's. Sholian was both shocked and furious. "Feng Xin!" Cold sweat rolled down Feng Xin's forehead, and without a word he knelt down before Qirong and kowtowed 3 times before Sholian could stop him. Quite pleased, Qirong laughed out loud. All right, I guess I'll forgive you. Why couldn't you have done this earlier? Even though Qirong's arm was also broken, he looked energized and refreshed when he left, as if he had just won a battle. As for Fengxian, he was still kneeling on the ground. Mu Qing stood on the sidelines watching, looking vaguely ashen, but his thoughts were otherwise unreadable. Yeah, I think both Mu Qing and Fengxian have witnessed each other do new things, so to speak, in this chapter so far, like unexpected things. Getting to know each other by observing them in these situations. Sholian whipped around to face his father, yelling angrily, "You!" Fengxian grabbed him with his left arm. "Your Highness!" The queen also put her hands on him to pull him back. Fengxian had followed Sholian since the age of 14, and Sholian knew he was given preferential treatment by the queen. Fengxian had only done this because he couldn't bear to see the queen sad over the dispute between father and son. Oh my god, Fengxian. If Sholian threw a fit now, then Fengxian's efforts would go to waste. He swallowed his outrage, but the fire continued to burn inside his heart. The king finally looked appeased and left with a grim expression. The queen had always liked Fengxian. She sighed. "My child, we've wronged you." "Please don't say that, your majesty. This was my duty," Fengxian replied. Hearing this, Mu Qing's eyes flickered, and he seemed to sneer soundlessly. Sholian, however, closed his eyes. "Mother, if you really can't handle Qirong, lock him up." The queen sighed, nodded, then shook her head and left as well. Sholian asked for one of the imperial doctors to tend to Fengxian's right arm, and he apologized. "Fengxian, I'm sorry." Once the others had gone, Fengxian immediately changed face and clicked his tongue. "This is nothing. I dare to hit him, so why would I be scared of his revenge?" After a pause, he advised, "Your Highness, of course it's right for you to discipline Qirong, but don't be angry with His Majesty. His Majesty is the king and the figurehead of the older generation, so he thinks differently than we do. Seeing the two of you fight makes the queen unhappy. She has her troubles too." And how could Sholian not know his mother had her own troubles? Qirong's mother was the younger blood sister of the queen, and they shared deep sisterly affections. When this sister was young and immature, at the first bloom of romance, she thirsted for freedom and broke off a good engagement to elope with a bodyguard from her palace, lured by his sweet honeyed words. Who knew that the one she had chosen was a villain? The daughter of nobility was stuffed into a shack barely better than a doghouse, and not half a year later, the villain revealed his true nature and his taste for debauchery. Once Qirong was born, he became even more abusive, beating and kicking his wife and child. Oh my god, Qirong. Finally, the mother couldn't endure it any longer. And when Qirong turned 5, she dejectedly took him and ran away from home. Because she had long been disgraced through that royal scandal, she closed the door and no longer stepped foot outside, spending the rest of her life in grim depression, only showing particular love and devotion to her only son. During an upheaval, Qirong's mother lost her life, saving the queen. Oh, okay. Before she passed, she asked Sholian's mother to look after Qirong. Of course, the queen did her utmost. However, it was still awkward raising someone else's son. Discipline was difficult, too strict, and it would appear to be abuse, and considering familial affections, she could hardly be so harsh. But too lax, and it would lead to the kind of behavior seen today. And without restraints, it would only worsen in the future. The queen often wondered. She raised Sholian and Qirong almost the same, so why were their characters so different? Girl, This kid was abused from basically his birth until he was 5 years of age. That's trauma. The age where children start developing consequential thinking and empathy is estimated to be around the ages 3 to 4. This is why it is so important for a child to learn consequences of actions during that time, as in, kids in kindergarten who are playing outside together need to have consequences when, say, child A goes over to child B and takes their toy away from them. If there isn't a consequence for child A, in that the toy is taken away from them again and given back, and they are, get to learn that what you did was a bad thing. If that consequence is not given, they learn the opposite, as in, if I do this, I get to play with the toy I wanted to play with. So this age is super important for developing some of these, what can we call them? Like the tools that we have and use in society. And the children who don't learn this at that age struggle a lot when they enter school, for instance, where they haven't learned these things and can't abide by these things. Like they're going to spend extra amounts of time learning these things. So what I'm seeing here is that not only did Qi-Rong experience this sort of abuse for 5 years, for 5 very important formative years, but I imagine that once his mother actually ran away with him and came back to, royalty, she would want to make up for that by, of course, spoiling him. Like, this is just a recipe for... Of course, you can't raise Qi-Rong the same way you raised Sholian, who grew up wanting for nothing, who did not experience this kind of abuse. And once again, yes, there's no therapy in ancient fantasy China. The root of all problems in TGCF, the lack of therapy in ancient fantasy China. Just then, Sholian suddenly remembered there was a small child still lying on the bed here in the medical office. He raised the bedside curtain to check, and that child had been sitting up since who knows when, looking like he'd been trying to peer out of a crack in the curtains. When Sholian raised the curtain, he lay down again obediently. Sholian said, "Did we scare you with that quarrel just now? Don't let it bother you. It has nothing to do with you. Your Highness, this child's wounds have been tended to. Now he needs quiet rest," one of the imperial doctors said. Sholian dipped his head slightly. "Thank you." Then he bent down again to ask, "Where do you live? I'll take you home." The child shook his head. No home. No home. Function approached, holding the arm that was now in a sling. No home? So he really is a little beggar? Seeing that this child was so emaciated and small, his clothes filthy and unkempt, it wasn't impossible to believe. If he had no home to return to, they couldn't possibly leave him at the palace or throw him out on the streets. Sholian pondered for a moment, then said, "If that's the case, then let's bring him back with us to Mount Taizang." Unexpectedly, Mu Qing suddenly spoke up. "He is lying." Oh my fucking god, that was the end. That's the end of chapter 26. What a cliffhanger. What a fucking cliffhanger. So I can't believe this. This was such an exciting chapter, and it was so long. Oh my fucking god. I said I spent 3 hours recording the first half of this video, and this chapter alone took me another 2.5 hours. What the fuck? Shit. But it was worth it. It was so much fun. I loved this chapter, and I learned so many new things. Oh my god. I am so overwhelmed. Fucking Qi-Rong, man. Oh my lord. I am so tired of this man. Do we have to deal with him for the rest of this fucking book? Qi-Rong is here to make trouble. He makes so much trouble. He's making so much trouble. And it's understandable. We're learning background information about Qirong that really explains to me why Qirong is Qirong. However, I'm still so annoyed. What the actual fuck? The beating up is one thing. Dragging behind a fucking carriage. I am so mad. I am so mad. And what makes me even madder is just little I was about to say Huasheng again. He has a name, he has a fucking name, and it's, oh my god. It's Red. His name is Red. His baby Red. That's so, oh my god. That's so, oh. So you wear red because your name is Red? What the fuck? So, yeah. This is insane. I can't believe this. I can't believe you have a name. A real name. Is it a real name? Is it his real name? We don't have confirmation yet, but I think it is, right? It makes sense. Because like I said, the whole thing is his eye, right? Ming's eye is red. That's the whole thing. His eye is red. My mini doll can confirm. I was about to grab Huasheng, but they're so comfortable back there. I don't wanna disturb them. But he has a red eye. I can confirm. So what I'm saying is, they totally named him Red. His name is Red. Little Hong. Oh my gosh. We are learning a shit ton about all these characters, and both Function and Mooching had big moments, and what we are also understanding is that while the Shanle trio at this point, like, they know each other, and Shirley-Ann and Function have known each other for like 3-ish years. Shirley-Ann has also known Mooching for just a couple of years. Like, there isn't that much of a difference in like the time that they've spent together is what I'm trying to say. Like, yeah, maybe Shirley-Ann knew Function from before 14 as well. But they've been up on Mount Taitsang for about the same amount of time, right? So the Shanle trio are like still getting to know each other, and some of these crucial like reveals are happening in these 2 chapters that we've been reading. Well, this last chapter really, which had most of the crucial reveals. And yeah, holy fuck. So Mooching for one, we knew he grew up in the slums. He has his Achilles heel, and I think this heel is gonna be smacked. It's his mom. It's his mom. He has a mom. And he is also, you know, big brother figure for all these other little kids running around the slums. And now at the very end, like this is relevant because at the very end here, when baby Huasheng Hong is saying that I have no home, Mooching is saying that he's a liar because Mooching would know probably that he does have a family. If Huasheng too is from the slums, he would know which household he belongs to. Oh my god. Yeah, this is so Function's first meeting with the little with Crimson Rain Salt Flower is holding him and then getting kicked in the shin. Mooching meets him behind a mask, but then his first like action towards Huasheng is calling out his little bluff, his little lie. Oh my god. This has to be like an AU sort of premise. The one where they take Huasheng to Mount Taitsang versus whatever is gonna happen next. But wow, I'm so shocked that Huasheng is in this as much as he is. In both of these chapters, he has been a pretty significant part of them. Though Mooching and Function both are getting plenty of spotlight as well. And we're really getting to understand the mindset of the 17-year-old Shirley-Ann. It's amazing. I'm having so much fun. And I'm so sad that this chapter was so long, actually, because I'm so tired again. Why do I keep doing this to myself? But the next chapter is the last chapter of Volume 2. I checked, it's only 40 pages, which means that the next time I'm making a video, I'm only going to do that one chapter, and it's going to be a shorter video, but it's gonna be me wrapping up volume 2 and getting ready to get into volume 3, the Titanic one. And by then we'll get to know how far along we are in the story. So far we are pre-first ascension. We're still at Sholian at age 17 saves a child, in fact saves the same child several times. The prologue didn't mention that. The storyteller didn't have all his facts right. But we also have Sholian fighting that ghost on the bridge, so that is still an event that needs to happen in the 17th year. So I'm wondering if this book is going to be Sholian's 17th year, if we're going to be able to press that into the next 40 pages, or if we're going to have to continue that in arc book 3, volume 3 I mean. We very crucially need a name for Mr. State Preceptor. I hate the fact that he's just State Preceptor, or as he is in my head, Bai Wuxiang Suspect number 3. But him not having a name might indicate that he's not as important as I make him out to be. Or maybe it's the whole point. The whole point is that his name is never really mentioned, and you know ghosts are not supposed to reveal their real names. I am really gunning for this Bai Wuxiang theory with the State Preceptor of Shanhe. I am 99% sure that this is the State Preceptor now. Actually, more like 100, like I would bet money on that. But holy shit, holy fuck, Sholian has daddy issues? I didn't see that one coming actually. But that makes sense too, I guess. Love the passage about fathers and sons and disagreeing. This explains his relationship to the Emperor as well. No, seriously, like there's a parallel here of, you know, young boys who look up to their father and idolizes them. Young god, newly ascended, looking up to the top god and idolizing them. And then when they grow old, aka 800 years later, they're more like, yeah, sure, whatever you say. Or, you know, arguing right back at him. I mean, Wuxiang wouldn't do that. You're not slick, Sholian, you're not slick. Well, I have plenty of things to think about. Gosh, I was going off tangents, like left and right. But the thing is, we're ending this chapter on Mooching saying that Wuxiang is lying, he does have a home, but obviously Wuxiang doesn't want to go back to that home. And oh my fucking god, the thing about Wuxiang in pain. I keep calling him Wuxiang. Hong. I need to write it down. I need to get a note for it. The thing about the baby Hong and pain, he is getting beaten on the regular, isn't he? Like he is getting abused at home. That's what's happening. That's the implication of that. That's what we're supposed to be thinking. I remember from the short film that when he was with his bullies, they mention his mother, and he is very defensive of that. So it's a no mother sort of situation, I'm guessing. Yeah, wow. So this prince, the crown prince, showing up out of the blue, you know, saving him from certain death. Not once, but twice in 2 days. Like, this is, to Wuxiang. This is a blessing. This is heaven's blessing. If he ever prayed for anything, and, you know, this happened, that's a sign. That was a sign. I can definitely see us starting from something here. Sholian took him to the doctors. Sholian stays with him. Sholian tries to make sure that he's okay. I'm gonna cry if I keep thinking about this. Let's not think about this anymore. I am not allowing myself to think about this anymore. Let's think fun things. Like the fact that the Shanhe trio together in Sholian's room earlier, that was so cute. That was so fun. There are some fun, nice moments in all of this that makes me hopeful and also makes me dread the fact that I know that this is gonna go to shit. Let's do the tallies, guys. Surprisingly, no ellipsis answers in any of these chapters, but we did add to our laugh or cry tally, which brings our total for volume 2 up to 5 laugh or cries, and that's a grand total of 12. Wow. Well, this was great. These were our first steps out into the unknown, into Arc 2 of Heaven Official's Blessing. I had a great time and I hope that you enjoyed yourself as well. If you want to talk to me about these new reveals, leave me a comment or come talk to me in my Discord server, where we'll be happy to have you in the book club thread. And without further ado, this has been Amelia, aka Spaced Out Puffin, and I will see you in the next one.